I've been talking in my sleep, been running deep, looking for us. I've been playing hide and seek. I felt the heat, but never enough. I was waiting till the sky was falling, held my breath till every single star had aligned. On my mind, I never saw it coming. Didn't think you would make me with a kiss like this. wish I knew then what I know now. And are we ever gonna get to higher ground? I wish I knew then what I know now. And are we ever gonna get to higher ground? Free your head and look up at the sun. We're never leaving. Spread your wings and watch yourself become already It's so far away, this tiny thing called entropy, the end of all you've ever been. But you can't sleep, and I can't lie to you like all the grown-up people do. The clock stops, people go, people go. If I could lock up light in your little heart, keep your innocence of the deep down dark, I would. In the dead of night, I'll be here by your side. Ghosts don't sing, so you know that I'm alive. I still get the dreams and the feeling of doom. I don't wanna frighten you, the pills that lie to you. You can set the time when it's time that you go. There's no God, but it's better you know. I still get the dreams and the feeling of doom. I don't wanna frighten you, I don't wanna frighten you. In the dead of night, I'll be here by your side. Ghosts don't sing, so
Hello,
you know
friends.
that I'm alive.
Welcome.
I still get the
Welcome.
dreams and the feeling of doom.
Everyone in Twitch, appreciate, or the few of you in Twitch, appreciate you guys being here. Hope everyone's doing good. Angie, hello. I see you in here. Angie. So, yeah, we got a big day today. We got a big documentary day today. We are going to learn about Iran, since it's been in the news like crazy. And I feel as though this is a good time to bring the masses through the timelines that make Iran so complicated, because Iran is very complicated. And people like to paint it with a broad stroke. Ooh. People like to paint it with a broad stroke, but it's a lot more nuanced than even your typical Middle Eastern country. And I think we have a good we got to start from the beginning, and the beginning is really the beginning. Some things I want to just start with really quickly. Don't forget, town and local elections in New Hampshire are in 4 days. March 10th. Make sure you go to citizenscount.org, check that out. Check out where all your information is for your town if you're not in a city in New Hampshire, and get in those votes, because it's going to be important for the local level. And yeah, let's fucking get started. This is a pretty long documentary. I might even put it on like 2x or something. We'll see. If you are in TikTok, I would jump onto Twitch if you wanted to actually watch it with us, or else you could like just listen to it on TikTok. That's one way it'll work. I tested it before. You can hear it through TikTok, but you won't be able to see what we're seeing. So if you're okay with that, chill with us in TikTok. Cool with me. Cool with me. All right, look at that. There's my new buttons. Yeah, check that out, baby. Wow. All right, so for just in case, just so in case people want to know what this documentary is, maybe you want to watch it on your own too. It's called The Entire History of Iran, Ancient to Modern. Okay, and this is only 5 months old, and it is actually very good. From what I've heard, it is very good. So it's 5 months old, and it's like a 3-hour documentary. So we're gonna like put it on maybe 1.5 or something to start. We'll see how it goes. But this is truly the beginning, and this will probably go over 2 streams. I don't think we'll finish this today. I have a feeling. So, all right, let's get started, man. Again, this is called The Entire History of Iran, Ancient to Modern. If you're on TikTok and you don't want to join Twitch and you want to watch this documentary on your own, or just watch it side by side, you can. You'll hear the audio though. through my computer. So
The history of Iran is not just long, it is elemental. It begins not with borders or kings, but with
let's turn this
fire
on.
and stone, in a land where civilization first took root. Here, beneath the burning sun and rugged mountains, one of humanity's first great empires rose, not to conquer, but to unite. The Persians called it the land of the noble, and the world would come to know it as Persia. From the wisdom of Zoroaster to the armies of Cyrus the Great, from golden capitals carved into cliffs to the scrolls of poets and philosophers, Iran stood as a beacon between east
and if you guys
and
have
west,
any questions along the
absorbing,
way, don't
transforming,
hesitate to
and
ask whether
enduring.
you're in TikTok
It was a land
or
of
Twitch.
empires that ruled
Again,
with
if you jump onto
tolerance and a
Twitch,
revolution.
if you jump onto Twitch, you will see what we're seeing.
That reshaped belief itself. But history was never kind for long. Invaded by Greeks, Arabs, Mongols, and more, Iran would bend but never break. Time and again, it re-emerged, changed, defiant, eternal. From the fall of dynasties to the rise of the Islamic Republic, from whispered verses in forbidden books to fiery protests in modern streets, Iran has always lived between glory and struggle. To outsiders, it is often misunderstood, a land cast in shadows, defined by geopolitics and myth. But its real story is far deeper. A civilization that has outlived its conquerors, that remembers what others have forgotten, and that still burns with the same ancient flame. To understand its triumphs and tragedies, its pride and its pain, to grasp how a nation so ancient still shapes the modern world, we have to start from the beginning.
Right away, I want people to know that like this idea. So if you're noticing like a lot of people in the news right now, or a lot of people in pop culture, a lot of people on the internet, you might notice a lot of Pahlavis or a lot of monarchists that seem to be very Islamophobic, right? They hate the fact that like Iran is Islamic. They hate like the hijabs, which is understandable when you've had so much trauma. But they go back to the Zoroastrians, which were not religious. They were secular. They were one of the, it was like a fire religion. So they are especially aggro, I would say, against any kind of like religious rule, that's why they're so aggro against Islam in general, even those inside of Iran.
It is often said that the geographical setting of a people will primarily determine their fate. Sometimes, the implication is as simple as whether people will end up as fishermen or hunters. At other times, it's more dire, sealing the fate of a nation as either doomed or lucky. Iran has always found its place at the center of civilizations that sought to conquer it. Iran can be described as a semi-fertile land. The reason for this is rooted in its geographical setting. Major mountain ranges dominate Iran, the Zagros in the west and the Alborz in the north, which limit the amount of flat arable land for cultivation. A large portion of central and eastern Iran is also covered by the deserts Dasht-e Kavir and Dasht-e Lut, which are extremely dry and mostly infertile. Most of Iran receives less than 250 millimeters of rainfall annually, which makes it arid or semi-arid at best. Only the Caspian coast and parts of the Zagros foothills receive enough rain to support regular farming without irrigation. However, areas such as the Khuzestan Plain, which is southwest of Iran, are very fertile. This is because it is fed by rivers like the Karun. It is also home to the ancient Elam and early Persian empires, but we'll get to that in a moment. The strategic location of Iran benefited the people in the beginning.
Good, bro.
Areas like Mesopotamia, which is now modern Iraq,
It
to the
was- it
west
didn't
of
look
Iran, were
nearly
very
as
fertile due to
good
their supply
as
from
the
the Tigris and
pictures.
Euphrates rivers. Anatolia, which is
Yeah.
modern Turkey, stood northwest of Iran and is also generally
I'll send you
fertile.
photos of
Central Asia, which lies
of
to the
both.
north and
Oh my God,
northeastern
why'd it get so
parts,
fucking
has
loud?
mostly
Holy fuck.
arid and mountainous parts with fertile river valleys like the Amu Darya.
I'll send you photos of both for sure. It sucked.
While the geographical setting might play an important role in determining the course of Iranian
It's alright,
history,
it's the first one.
culture plays
It's
the
the
most
first one.
important role, and the entirety of Iranian culture was developed on the lowlands
The
of
first of
Khuzestan,
many.
the Iranian plateau,
First
and
of a
Central
few,
Asia.
I imagine.
Long before kings or conquests and caliphates, one of the oldest stories of civilization had begun, and it started with small clusters of people across the Iranian plateau. This region, framed by the Zagros Mountains to the west and the Caspian Sea to the north, was the best area to settle, as it offered a varied and fertile geography. By 7000 BCE, history says that Neolithic peoples here were cultivating barley, wheat, and lentils while domesticating animals like goats and sheep. Villages such as Ganj Dore, Tepsialk, and Chogabonut became permanent settlements. While much of
this
their
is, like,
history is shrouded in mystery,
blocking the
two
closed
things stood
captioning
out:
for you
their
guys. I'm
architecture
sorry, let me
and
see if I
art.
can
Their
change
huts
and
were
move it
basic,
around.
mud brick houses and stone tools. Their art hinted at an advancement well beyond their time. They had symbols and other geometric designs carved onto pottery and walls. By the 4th millennium BCE, another civilization emerged, the Elamites. The Elamites were a powerful people with a deeply valued sense of culture. They often interacted with neighboring
Hold up a second. I'm gonna adjust this so you guys can see the. All right, there we go.
civilizations like those of
So you
Sumer,
guys can see the
Akkad, and
closed
Babylon,
captioning
yet they
here.
maintained a distinct culture. Sometimes the relationship was cordial, but most times it was strained. The Elamites often came into
Hell
conflict
yeah,
with their
Kate.
Mesopotamian rivals
Thanks
and
for
rising Semitic
coming.
empires
Thanks for
like
hanging out with
Akkad
me.
and
I
Babylonia.
appreciate you guys.
The Elamite language remains one of the greatest enigmas of ancient linguistics. It's not linked to any of the more commonly known Indo-European or Semitic language families. The Elamites developed their version of cuneiform, Linear Elamite, a system
Can you
of
guys
writing that
not-
predated Persian
Marissa,
writing
do you
systems
not see the
and is still only
sticker
partially deciphered today. Their
in the middle
capital,
of the
Susa,
screen
founded
that
around
says
42,000 BCE,
at
would
Aria
become one of the most
NH
important cities in the
on
ancient Near
Twitch?
East. It wasn't just the heartbeat of Elam,
I
it was
swear
a cultural
there's
bridge
one
between
there.
Iran and Mesopotamia. Strategically located between the Zagros Mountains and the Tigris River, Susa controlled trade routes connecting
Damn it.
highland and lowland cultures. Over time, it absorbed influences from Akkadian, Babylonian, and even Hittite traditions, but the Elamites never lost their unique identity.
After the fall of Middle Elamite period in the 12th century BCE,
Susa endured. When the Persians built their empire centuries later, they made Susa a royal capital once again. They also considered their religion as central to their existence. Their cities were full of temples and other sacred precincts, and they worshipped In-Shushanak, whom they called the protector of
How
Susa.
about now?
Over time, the Elamites became worthy rivals of their Mesopotamian rivals, like the Ur Empire, the Babylonians, and the Assyrians. In a dramatic moment of reversal in 2004 BCE, Elamite forces marched into Mesopotamia and brought down the mighty Ur Empire. However, the empire finally fell to Ashurbanipal in 639 BCE and was absorbed into the ever-expanding Assyrian domain. Elam never regained
People
its
love
independence
texting
again.
me
Though they
like
never regained
as
their
they're
independence,
watching me
their legacy
stream.
was never forgotten.
You know, like
They carved
it's crazy.
inscriptions
Yeah,
and
I'm
built
talking to you,
monuments across Khuzestan
Panda.
and Fars.
You jerk.
The ziggurat of
Tell me in
Choga
chat.
is a
What are you
massive
trying to
temple
tell me?
structure constructed by the Elamite
Unless
king
it's
Untash
constructed.
Napirsha around 1250 BCE and dedicated to Elamite gods, particularly In-Shushanak and Napirsha. This structure still stands today. Centuries later, Darius the Great carved his famous trilingual inscription at Bisotun around 521 BCE, using Old Persian, Babylonian, and
Arya-
Elamite languages. Numerous excavations at Persepolis, which is the ceremonial capital of the Achaemenid Empire,
Hold up.
have uncovered thousands of Elamite tablets used by the Persians for administration. Most of them are just bureaucratic records of wages, food rations, and supply orders, but they reveal something astonishing.
Okay,
The
cool,
Elamite
cool.
language, which had been written thousands of years earlier, was still being used by Persian scribes well into the Achaemenid period.
What about
The
now,
Elamites may have lost their
Marissa? Do you see it on
independence, but
TikTok
they never
at all?
lost their relevance. The next civilization discovered on Iranian soil was the Jiroft, and their existence was as mysterious as their discovery. In January 2001,
Well, I have told
on the
TikTok
dusty
many
hills of
times. We are on
Kerman
Twitch.
province,
We're live
near the
on
ancient
Twitch right
mound
now.
of Tepe
I don't know
Yahya,
why it's not
the
showing.
locals made a stunning
It's-
discovery.
I
They'd
made
stumbled
it
upon an
twice.
ancient tomb, one that held dozens of intricate artifacts unlike anything seen before in the region. There were elaborately engraved figures of animals, mythological beings, and architectural motifs. Some were carved from chlorite, a grey-green stone that glimmers under light. Others were fashioned from copper, bronze, terracotta, and even lapis lazuli,
try
the dazzling blue stone prized across the
something
ancient
else
world.
here. It's like
Archaeologists found this mind-blowing.
TikTok
Before
is such
this,
an
there was
asshole.
no history
dude.
of the Jirov culture. It all seemed to emerge from nowhere. Yet its sophistication hinted at a complex history that rivaled those of Mesopotamia, Elam, and the Indus Valley. Its existence raised even bigger questions about early life and civilization on Iranian land.
TikTok
However,
like
what we
does
do know
not.
is that long before Cyrus
like
the Great,
senses
before
what I'm trying
Persepolis,
to-
and before the
trying
Persian
to do
Empire,
here,
Iran was
and it
already
won't let
home to
me.
rich, dynamic, and complex cultures. Elam, Jirov, and countless unnamed others were the true pioneers of Iranian civilization. This was until a great migration would arrive on the scene. Around 2000 BCE, a seismic shift began on the Iranian plateau. From the steppes of Western Central Asia and Kazakhstan came waves of nomadic Indo-European speakers, known to later historians as Aryans. They were not one unified tribe, but a constellation of migrating clans. They brought with them
Aryans.
new languages, technologies like the
That's
chariot,
right.
and oral traditions that would evolve into epic poetry and scripture. Some of these tribes, centuries earlier, had wandered east, like the Tocharians, for instance, who took a surprising path toward the edges of China. These Indo-Iranian
Oh, you're
tribes
the
gradually
best,
settled
Marissa,
across
yeah.
the plateau and into
That
northern India.
works.
Some mingled with the local populations, others displaced or dominated them. They introduced early versions of what would become Old Persian, Avestan, and Sanskrit languages.
by the 1500 BCE,
Some of them had reached North Mesopotamia, where they rose to power as the ruling class of the Mitanni kingdom.
So just to pause this real quick, like I know I haven't been like kind of touching on this beginning part. Like one of the things I want you guys to really pay attention to at the beginning of this documentary, and especially because it's the beginning of the history of the Persians, and it's Iranian and Persian, even though they're pretty like interchangeable. Persia was like went all the way to India. You know what I'm saying? Like there are it's a lot of the Middle East and a lot of Africa is that way, where they are the borders don't really make up the real borders of the ethnicities in that area. Like there are Persians spread over all the different borders. There are Kurds. You know, like right now you're hearing a lot about Kurds in the news. The Kurds are spread between 4 different countries as well. And this Hey Tanya, hey cousin. I got multiple cousins in here. Hell yeah, family. This documentary is on YouTube. It's called The Full History of Iran from Ancient to It's called From Ancient to Modern, I think. And it's only 5 months old. It's a great documentary from what I've heard. This is my first time watching it too. But it's going really from the beginnings of the history of Iran. And thank you guys all for being here. I appreciate it. And yeah, come on to Twitch. Twitch is a better experience than TikTok, but you'll at least be able to hear it through TikTok.
Other waves of Indo-Iranian tribes pushed
Hey
south,
Bridget,
crossing rugged mountains, rivers, and deserts.
you didn't miss
Eventually,
much,
this
promise.
massive movement
Boring
split
stuff,
into two
really.
great branches. One group swept through what is now Afghanistan, crossed into the Indian subcontinent, and conquered the Dravidian civilizations of the Indus Valley. They settled there, and their traditions evolved into what we now recognize as Vedic India. The other group turned west toward Iran. These tribes brought with them their chariots and horses, which were powerful weapons in an era when mobility was crucial for military dominance. They overran native populations of the Iranian plateau, absorbing them, dominating them, and eventually reshaping the cultural landscape. However, it wasn't all victory. For some time, some of these tribes found themselves under the rule of the Assyrians,
Joe.
who raided their lands and kept their
You
ambitions
guys are
in check.
awesome. Thanks for coming.
Some others,
you guys are
especially
all
in the
the
south,
best.
were ruled by the Elamites until they eventually gained independence. Their religion, too, was deeply symbolic. They worshipped forces of nature and cosmic principles such as the sky, thunder, fire.
Got someone in Twitch saying, I did not realize Persia was that large. Persia was fucking humongous. And I think that was part of the reason it like fell. I mean, it got too big to govern. And I'm sure they will go over that. I think part of the issue with the Persian Empire at that time was that it was just way too fucking big. Way too fucking big. You ain't that late, brother. I promise. Happy Friday, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for hanging out with me, guys. You guys are awesome.
Wind,
It's probably the
water,
most
and
people.
earth. Deities
My
like
numbers
Mitra
aren't updated,
guarded
but
promises,
it's got to be
and
close
Varuna,
to the
who
most.
may have evolved into Ahura Mazda
getting
in the
there.
Iranian tradition, upheld the moral order of the universe. The idea of a universal truth or law, known as Rita in Sanskrit and Asha in Avestan, became the heart of both Vedic and Zoroastrian thought. The Aryans believed deeply in the power of sacrifice, not only as a gift to the gods, but also as a way of aligning the human world with the divine. At the center of many ceremonies was a mysterious drink, known in India as soma and in Iran as haoma. It was prepared by crushing a sacred plant, and it was said to be both intoxicating and divine. The original ingredients are thought to be unknown, but the plant ephedra has been generally accepted as one of the ingredients for the haoma in Iran. The drink was thought to confer
I'm
strength,
trying to
vision,
trick the
and
TikTok
connection to the
AI
spiritual
to let
realm.
me
Its
write
preparation was
Twitch.
the sacred duty of the
Come on,
priestly
come
class,
to Twitch.
the Brahmins in India and the Magi in Iran. These Magi would go on to play a crucial role in the formation of Zoroastrianism, preserving its rituals, texts, and sacred knowledge. They also considered family life to be sacred. The hearth in the home served as both a family bonding area and a spiritual center, where sacrifices were made.
Just again, the focus on fire, right? That's what Zoroastrians were not like your typical. It wasn't your typical religion. It was an elemental religion, really, and everything revolved around fire. Every part of, even now, I mean, it's just a big part of our culture. I was telling Marissa actually that one of our biggest holidays is the Persian New Year, and then they have a day called Charshamba Suri, which is a fire jumping celebration. We set up fires, like there's a fire and you jump over it, and it's like a big celebration. It's the first day, and the Persian New Year's is the first day of spring. That's what it represents as well. And the fire jumping celebration is like a new, like exactly what you would think it is, like burning away the old, bringing in the new. Fire represents purity, like purifying type of thing. So Every year I jump over a little fire pit as you know, as an ode to my ancestors. And there is something very, you know, spiritual about it. So
and they connected to their faith. Through it all, the Indo-Iranians laid the foundations for two of the world's great civilizations, India and Iran. While each would evolve in its own direction, their shared linguistic, spiritual, and cultural heritage remained a powerful link stretching back thousands of years. Among the many Iranian tribes that settled the rugged
Okay,
plateau of ancient
I'll
Iran,
try that.
it was the Medes who first rose to power and carved out a kingdom. We know bits and pieces about them, mostly from Assyrian records, a few Babylonian inscriptions, and, more colorfully, from Greek historians like Herodotus. The Medes first appear in the historical record in 835 BCE, in the inscriptions of Assyrian king Shalmaneser III.
Happy from TikTok. Are you doing Iran history? Absolutely. We are starting from the very beginning. Okay, and if you want to follow along, if you can come on a Twitch or on YouTube.
Wise and fair decisions.
The YouTube documentary, once again, it's called The Entire History of Iran, Ancient to Modern. And we're about 15 minutes in right now. It's 3 hours. We might not be able to watch it all today. We'll see. We'll see how I'm doing, how my night owl status affects me.
From other villages sought his wisdom, and in return he demanded that he be given royal authority. According to Herodotus, Deioces unified the Median tribes and established a kingdom with its capital at Ecbatana. Deioces built a 7-walled palace complex in Ecbatana. The walls were concentric, with each wall placed higher than the one within it and painted in 7 different colors. The innermost wall enclosed the king's palace and treasury. The colors were said to be symbolic and possibly even prophetic. The story of Deioces and his palace was given by Herodotus but has not been archaeologically confirmed. After Deioces, his son Phares took over and expanded Median power. But ultimately it was Kyaxares, son of Phares, who took the bold step that would liberate them. In alliance with the Babylonians, he led them to break free from Assyrian domination and launched an attack. In 612 BCE, the Medes and Babylonians.
Thank you so much, man. That scared the shit out of me. I never get gifts on TikTok. I'm like, what the fuck was that?
And the mighty Assyrians, who were once the iron-fisted rulers of the Middle East, fell. The Medes now stood as the major ruling power, dominating from Mesopotamia to Bactria. But the story of ancient Iran is not only political, it's also spiritual. Somewhere between 1200 and 600 BCE, in the heart of the plateau, a new religious philosophy began to take shape, one that would influence Judaism, Islam, and beyond. Its founder was a prophet named Zarathustra, or Zoroaster. He preached a radical idea that the
universe is a battleground. Am I familiar with the Friends Forever organization out of Portsmouth? I am not.
The supreme god Ahura Mazda was said to represent order and wisdom. Opposing him is Angra Mainyu, the spirit of chaos and deceit. In Zoroastrianism,
hey Jen, welcome.
Every human had a role
Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Through their thoughts, words, and deeds. Fire became the symbol of divine truth.
All right, hold on. I want to go backwards here. 1 second. This is very important. This is like a huge part
Judaism,
of
Islam and beyond. Its founder was a prophet named Zarathustra, or Zoroaster.
Okay, yeah. This is where the Zoroastrian kind of like following kind of begins, and Zarathustra, which he was the one that, you know, that was the terms that you hear is good thoughts, good words, good deeds, which is like, you'll see like let me see if I can I should have brought the symbol up actually earlier. It's called Faravar, which is a huge part of the. We got one right here. Shit, we got them in like every fucking room. Like this guy right here. This is called a Faravar. Probably seen this symbol. No, it is not a Nazi symbol. No, sometimes it looks like the symbol you're probably thinking of, okay? But it is not. It is specifically a Zoroastrian symbol, which represents good thoughts, good words, good deeds. And you'll see a lot of Persians wearing it. You'll see tattoos of it on men. It's just a part of our culture. And that was one of the most prominent symbols of Persia, or the Zoroastrians. So, and it's still very prominent now for present-day Iran.
He preached a radical idea that the universe is a battleground between good and evil, light and darkness, and truth and lies. The supreme god Ahura Mazda was said to represent order and wisdom. Opposing him is Angra Mainyu, the spirit of chaos and deceit. In Zoroastrianism, every human had a role to play in this cosmic struggle through their thoughts, words, and deeds. Fire became the symbol of divine truth. Temples were built not for
It's
sacrifice but
somewhere
for
in here. I
communion
know I
with
had
light.
another one in there.
Zoroastrianism was a profound departure from the polytheistic systems of Mesopotamia and Elam. It was deeply personal and would eventually become the state religion of the later Achaemenid and Sassanid empires. Iran was spiritually
find it.
awakened, and the Medes had taken over, but it was not going to be for long. The Medes had enjoyed a reign of great leaders, from Deasis, the first ruler, to Pheotes and Caxares, who set them free from the extremely tight-fisted Assyrian grip. However, the last Median king, Astyages, would also be remembered, but not for his conquest this time, but rather for his fall. He was overthrown by Cyrus of Anshan, a rising star and former vassal, who led a revolt against him and would eventually go on to unite the Medes and Persians into a new empire called the Achaemenid Empire.
This is Cyrus the Great, one of the two great kings of Persian rule. You'll hear about Cyrus the Great, you'll hear about Darius the Great. Cyrus the Great he created the world. They'll probably yeah. I did a video on Cyrus the Great. Cyrus the Great is one of the greatest kings to ever live. I mean, really, objectively. I'm sure they'll talk about this here if it's a good documentary. But he created the world's first version of the postal service. He created the first document of human rights, which was called the Cyrus cylinder. It's called the Cyrus cylinder, which was the first version of human rights documented that we could find historically. He helped the Jews rebuild their temple. That's why there's such a connection. There's such a big Jewish population in Iran. A lot of people don't know that in Iran, there are a lot. There is a formidable Jewish population in Iran that are Iranian Jews. Yeah, please, yeah, definitely email me, DM me about it sometime. So this is where a lot of like the strength of the Persian Empire started forming. Like you started really like the cultural parts of the Persian Empire that are still existent now. Okay, so great question. I had a question. Foxy Eve asked if the Jews in Iran are Zionists. Not all of them, and you certainly don't have to be Jewish to be a Zionist either. A lot of the monarchists in America are Zionists. A lot of Iranian monarchists are Zionists. Yeah, and it's, you know, whether they're Jewish or not, usually it's negligible. I mean, it's more of like a political stance on how Iran should be as a country, right? And right now the monarchists are very big on military intervention in Iran. They are the Iranians you see on the internet asking Israel to bomb their country, to bomb Iran. And, you know, they don't make up the majority of us, even though they're the loudest. They are certainly the loudest. They're Trump supporters, they're Israel supporters. Yeah, not great. They're not great. And they're rabid. Yeah, I wouldn't trust them with the future of Iran, and as far as I can throw them. So but yeah, no, that's the history of Jews in Iran comes from Cyrus the Great, and how, again, we were the first. I mean, I say we, so proud, you know, the Persian Empire was the first civilization to have like freedom of religion. So it wasn't, you know, they didn't harass or kill you for being another religion. You had to pay a tax usually of some sort, but you were still free to practice the religion that you wanted to practice. Which a lot of people get surprised when they hear about that too. But I'm gonna let the documentary talk a little bit more about that.
The Median Kingdom was brief but pivotal. It marked the first time the Aryans established true dynastic rule over the Iranian plateau, a turning point that would shape the politics and culture.
And it's very important. Again, Aryan, my name's Arya, okay, and they're Aryans. And in Western culture, okay, I know the first thing you think about is the Germans, the Nazis. You know, the Nazis called themselves Aryans, blonde hair, blue eyes. This is a little bit different. It's a little bit different. It's still like amongst you know, they like again, monarchists like to use that, Aryans, as saying, yeah, we are actually white. You know, we're not Arab or whatever. They love saying that, but there's a bit of a different meaning behind the word when it comes to Iran. Again, I'm going to let them explain a little bit more, but Iran literally means land of the Aryans, land of the Aryas, you know? And that's a conversation I have to clarify with people a lot of the time. You know, that there are multiple meanings, and the Nazis didn't like, you know, they just like, you know, hijacked a bunch of them. Like the swastika, you know, was a hijacked symbol from the Buddhists, which I'm sure they hijacked it from someone. I don't fucking know before the Buddhists, but that's how the world is usually actually, like, symbols of the world and a history of some of these civilizations get lost over time. But they're not, Iranians aren't Nazis, even though some of them might behave that way.
Culture of Iran for centuries. The Medes had risen and set the stage. Zoroaster's vision had begun to ripple across the land, but in a quiet corner of the Persian highlands, a new leader was about to rise. His name was Cyrus, son of a Persian chieftain. In the mid-6th century BCE, the Iranian plateau was a tapestry of tribes and small kingdoms. Among them were the Persians, led by a visionary chieftain named Cyrus III the Great. Cyrus the Great was born between 590 and 580 BCE. Some reports claim that he was a son-in-law of Astyages, but according to Herodotus, he was a grandson of Astyages, the last king of the Median Empire and overlord of the Persians. Astyages gave his daughter, Mandane, in marriage to Cambyses I, his vassal in Persia. Cyrus was born as a product of this marriage. However, Astyages claimed to have had a dream in which he was overthrown by his grandson Cyrus.
Nazis ruin everything.
He
Yeah,
ordered
true.
that Cyrus be killed. The legend of Herodotus, however, states that Cyrus was instead given to a shepherd to raise by Astyages' chief advisor. When he was 10 years old, he was rediscovered by his grandfather because of his outstanding abilities and allowed to live. Fate, however, prevailed, as Cyrus led a revolt against his grandfather and eventually overthrew him. Astyages came to be known not for conquest, but as the king overthrown by his grandson, Cyrus the Great. The Median Empire
Hey Brian,
was
what's
only
up,
the
brother?
first on Cyrus's
Good to
list.
see you, man.
Next, Cyrus turned towards Lydia, ruled by King Croesus, and in 546
We're on
BCE,
Twitch too,
Sardis, the Lydian capital,
right now.
was
Same
captured.
username on Twitch.
The Ionian
If you
Greek
guys want to
cities on
watch
the
what we're
Aegean Sea
watching.
coast, which were previously vassals under King Croesus, now became subject to Cyrus. It is not clear how King Croesus died. Some say he was executed in battle, while others state that he was either burned to death or saved by Cyrus himself and taken care of. Cyrus's greatest triumph came in 539 BCE with the capture of Babylon. He entered the city peacefully, revered by its people as a liberator.
This is where like a lot of his legend came from, the capture of Babylon, which was like a fucking gorgeous place. And unlike other, you know, warlords, he didn't go in there and just trash the place. And they'll probably talk about it.
He took advantage of the fact that the people were already dissatisfied with the ruler Nabonidus. He even claimed to be a worshipper of Marduk, the national deity of the Babylonians. The people loved what he represented, freedom, and so in a short conquest in 539 BC, Babylon, the greatest city of the ancient world, fell to Cyrus. The capture of Babylon also delivered Syria and Palestine, which had been previously conquered by the Babylonians. Through ruin and conquests came the birth of something new and beautiful, the Achaemenid Empire. The Achaemenid Empire was the largest the world had ever seen at that point. It included Persia, Mesopotamia, Anatolia, the Levant, Egypt, and Central Asia, which included Bactria, Sogdiana, Aria, and Khwarezmia, parts of the Arabian Peninsula, Libya, and some parts of Europe. The Achaemenid Empire was established by Cyrus, and its reign expanded with each new conquest, some after he was gone. Cyrus was famous for many things, particularly his leadership, but he was most revered by Christians for proclaiming freedom. He proclaimed that the people could return to their homes and rebuild their temples. This included the Jews who had been exiled to Babylon more than a century earlier. Their return to Jerusalem and the rebuilding of the Second Temple marked a turning point in religious history. Cyrus believed that religion was not a tool of oppression, but a thread of unity. While Cyrus himself...
Could you fucking imagine? What a fucking woke bitch. Tool of unity? What are you, fucking Gandhi? Jeez.
was said to have believed in
Loser.
Ahura Mazda, the chief deity
Right?
of
Can
the
you
ancient
imagine
Iranian
back then,
religion and later
590
Zoroastrianism?
BC?
He recognized the
He's
gods
like,
of
yo,
all
this
people
religion
and
shit
preserved
is
their holy places.
is fucking shit
This
up.
policy of religious tolerance became a hallmark of Persian rule. The Achaemenid Empire was a multicultural center built on the principles of religious freedom and effective administration. Cyrus laid the empire's foundations, but it was Darius I who ascended to the throne in 522 BCE who truly built the machine of empire.
Darius was the son of Hystaspes.
And Darius is the one that you would, the symbol that I showed you guys, the Pharaoh of Ar, is that's Darius. That's like his symbol. That's actually on the bird or whatever, the eagle.
A satrap of Parthia under the Achaemenid Empire who usurped his way to the throne like Cyrus. Cyrus left behind 2 sons, Cambyses, who succeeded him, and Bardia. Legend has it that Bardia was put to death by Cambyses when he ascended the throne, and an impostor named Gormata was put in his place. In the summer of 522 BC, after the death of Cambyses, and with the help of 6 Persian nobles, he killed Gormata and took over the throne. His ascension to the throne was not without opposition. The regions of Babylonia and Susiana rebelled a couple of times. Darius recorded that in 19 battles, he defeated 9 of the rebel leaders. Darius became the 3rd ruler of the empire. He organized the vast Achaemenid realm into satrapies, provinces each governed by a satrap or governor. This system allowed distant provinces to flourish under local customs, yet remain tied to a central authority. Darius also introduced standardized currency, including the gold daric and silver siglos, and a uniform system of weights and measures. He built the iconic Royal Road to connect the empire's vast provinces from Asia Minor to Central Asia. It spanned about 2,700 kilometers, a route connecting Susa to Sardis. While regular travelers would take about 90 days to complete the distance, the route allowed royal couriers to complete the journey in 7 to 9 days. He also included relay stations with fresh horses, lodging, and security checkpoints. The Royal Road supported the economic prosperity of the Persian Empire. The Royal Road allowed messages and goods to flow swiftly across Iran and beyond, thanks to the legendary Persian couriers who ran the length, never stopping. To bind this empire linguistically, the Persians adopted Imperial Aramaic as the lingua franca. Administrative, diplomatic, and daily life communication was conducted in its clean, efficient script. Messengers, traders, and satraps all spoke Aramaic. This linguistic unity helped shape the empire's identity. Darius also founded the majestic city of Persepolis, the ceremonial capital of the Achaemenid Empire. Much of the monumental architecture was eventually completed by his successors, especially
very
Xerxes
important
and
historical
Artaxerxes.
location in Iran.
Persepolis was designed to showcase the wealth, power, and diversity of the empire. It blended styles from across the empire, including Mesopotamian, Elamite, Egyptian, and Greek styles. Earlier in his reign, Darius commissioned the famous trilingual inscription known as the Behistun inscription, written in 3 languages, namely Old Persian, Elamite, and Babylonian cuneiform. The inscription describes the death of his predecessor.
You guys can see like the symbol everywhere, right? Like there it is right there.
Cambyses II.
Around 519 BC, he went after the Scythians east of the Caspian Sea and then pushed into the Indus Valley not long after. In 513 BC, he led a bold campaign into Europe, crossing the Danube River into what's now Romania and Ukraine to chase more Scythian tribes, but the Scythians cleverly kept retreating and destroying everything behind them. Darius' army ran out of supplies and had to give up. Still, his efforts weren't a total loss. His governors or satraps in Asia Minor managed to bring Thrace fully under control, got Macedonia to submit, and took over the islands of Lemnos and Imbros in the Aegean. That meant Persia now controlled key access routes to Greece and the Black Sea grain trade, crucial for the Greek economy. Darius saw conquering Greece as the next logical step, especially to keep the Greeks in Asia Minor safe from interference by their European cousins. Before launching any attacks, he had the Greek coastal areas scouted, but things escalated in 499 BC when Athens and Eretria backed a rebellion against Persian rule in Ionia. After crushing the revolt, Darius sent his son-in-law Mardonius to punish Athens and Eretria, but a terrible storm wrecked the fleet near Mount Athos in 492 BC. He tried again in 490 BC, this time under a general named Datis. Eretria was destroyed, but the Persians were famously defeated at the Battle of Marathon by the Athenians. Darius began planning yet another campaign, but a rebellion in Egypt slowed things down, and he died in 486 BC before he could try again. Under Darius' son, Xerxes I, Persia reached its largest territorial...
Okay, now enter like the 300 timeline of the Persian Empire. Like what you're about to see now is that timeline. So if you watch that movie, as ridiculous as it fucking was, that movie was talking about Xerxes. That was the king, and it's going to end up talking about the big battle where they ended up, the big battle in 300, where it was like 300 versus thousands of them. There is truth to that battle for sure. They weren't fighting Persian monkeys, okay? They were fighting real Persians. But this is that timeline that you're about to watch. You see here. Yo, Elron, what's up, brother? How's it going?
Extent.
Thanks for
When
coming, man.
Xerxes became
Appreciate
king
it.
in 486 BCE, he was already around 35 and had spent over a decade managing Babylonia under his father, Darius the Great. However, he didn't exactly ease into the job. He had to deal with serious unrest right away. First up was Egypt, where a rebel leader had taken control. Unlike Darius, Xerxes responded harshly, and in 484 BCE, he launched a brutal campaign, crushing the rebellion and ravaging the Nile Delta.
ball baseball
Next
dad
came
in the
Babylon,
house, bro.
which
Oh,
rose
bro,
with
we're
two different
going
rebel leaders in
beginning
quick
to end.
succession.
This is from
The
the
second one,
ancient
Sennacherib,
fucking
was put down
empires
by
to
Xerxes'
modern.
son-in-law.
So
But again,
you're
the
like
response was
30 minutes
fierce.
in now.
Babylon's walls were torn down, temples looted, and most significantly, the sacred statue of Marduk, Babylon's chief god, was destroyed. That act sent a clear message. Xerxes wasn't just rejecting Babylon's political autonomy, he was turning away from their religious traditions too. Unlike his father, who took on the traditional titles of King of Egypt and King of Babylonia, Xerxes dropped them entirely. From now on, he was just King of the Persians and the Medes. There's a famous inscription where Xerxes talks about destroying a place where devas, who are evil spirits in the Zoroastrian religion, were once worshipped. He says that with the help of Ahura Mazda, the supreme god of Zoroastrianism, he destroyed the Deva sanctuary and made it clear they were no longer to be worshipped. Many historians think this might refer to Babylon, suggesting Xerxes saw Babylonian gods as
I
devas.
hope so,
and was trying
Joe.
to stamp out their influence.
That's what I think
Today,
of.
there are still debates about his spiritual
Kick them into a
affiliations.
bottomless
In 480
pit.
BCE, motivated to avenge his father's defeat at Marathon and urged by his brother-in-law Mardonius, Xerxes launched a massive invasion of Greece. It took 3 years, from 484 to 481 BCE, to put everything in place. Troops were conscripted from all corners of the Persian Empire, and a massive navy was assembled to support the land forces. According to historian Herodotus, no military operation had ever been this ambitious. Even the logistics were staggering. 2 pontoon bridges were constructed across the Hellespont to move troops from Asia into Europe. When a storm destroyed the bridges, Xerxes supposedly ordered the sea to be whipped just to show his fury. Once the bridges were rebuilt,
You see how fucking the audacity, like if you guys know me personally, a lot of you do, you know how audacious I am? It's from fucking generations of badasses who are trying to whip the sea. You hear that, motherfucker? Let's whip the sea to piss them off, to show them how angry we are. We're gonna go and just make the sea move to like piss off the Greeks. Goddamn Persians, man. Man, the audacity, unbelievable.
Xerxes oversaw the crossing for 7 straight days. Herodotus famously claimed the Persian army numbered 5 million, though modern historians believe it was closer to 360,000, with 700 to 800 ships backing them up. To support this massive invasion, they even pulled off a huge engineering feat, digging a canal across the Isthmus of Actium to avoid the dangerous waters around Mount Athos. Despite the impressive start, the campaign quickly ran into trouble. The huge army struggled because of poor knowledge of the Greek terrain and the unexpected unity and national spirit rising among the Greek city-states. After early
One of the first, okay, if you guys saw my video earlier today on the rally around the flag effect, truly one of the first documented moments of rallying around the flag. You had the Greek empires, which were in tatters, right? In terms of like their unity, they were warring amongst each other. All of a sudden, here comes the big bad Persian machine, and the Greeks put on a fucking show because their lives were at risk, their nation was at risk, their everything was at risk. And when you have that going on, it's very easy to unify against a big bad monster, kind of like, you know, what Iran is doing right now. A lot of people thought this would be done in 1 or 2 days, but it looks like they were underestimated, you know, and usually a lot of that happens when it comes to like a lesser enemy, you know. So probably the first time we saw the rally around the flag effect in history.
victories like Thermopylae in mid-August 480 BCE, Xerxes
Okay, the Battle of Thermopylae was the big cliff battle between the 300 soldiers and the Persian
marched
army.
into Attica, burned Athens to the ground on September 21st, but then things unraveled. Just 8 days later, at the Battle of Salamis, his navy suffered a crushing defeat. With no fleet to supply his troops, Xerxes had no choice but to retreat back to Asia, leaving Mardonius in charge of the forces in Thessaly. But the next year, in a drawn-out battle near Plataea on August 27, 479 BCE, Mardonius was killed, forcing the rest of the Persian troops to withdraw.
Damn, you
While
quote
the
my
war
TikToks,
technically
Bridget?
dragged on for another 13 years,
God damn.
Xerxes himself
You guys
played
are
only a
fan- you
minor
guys are
role
super
after
fans.
that.
Your check's in the mail, Bridget.
After the devastating loss in Greece, Xerxes returned home to Susa and Persepolis, his confidence shaken. Many historians view this moment as the start of the Achaemenid Empire's decline. Instead of rebuilding Persia's strength, Xerxes doubled down on heavy taxation and launched a massive building spree, draining the empire's resources further. At Persepolis, he picked up where his father Darius had left off. Xerxes added the enameled brick facade to the Apadana and completed Darius's palace. Then, he built his own palace, modeled after his father's, and possibly a treasury now known as the harem by archaeologists. He also started work on the vast hall of 100 columns, meant to be a throne room, but only managed to finish its base before his death. The hall was later completed by his son, Artaxerxes I. As time went on, Xerxes became more withdrawn, involving himself less in empire affairs and more in harem politics. In one infamous episode, he ordered the execution of his brother's entire family, reportedly at the queen's urging, but the court drama eventually caught up with him. In 465 BCE, Xerxes was murdered, along with his eldest son, by members of his court, including his powerful minister Artabanus. His younger son, Artaxerxes I, managed to seize control and succeeded him on the throne. And then came Alexander the Great. Born in 356
Fuck us
BCE
up.
in the Macedonian capital of Pella, he was the son of King Philip II and Olympias,
Maybe the
a princess
greatest
from Epirus. As a teenager,
strategist
he was
to ever
tutored by
live,
Aristotle,
honestly,
who sparked in him
Alexander
a
the
love
Great.
for philosophy, medicine, and science. Though Alexander would eventually outgrow some of Aristotle's narrow ideas, like treating non-Greeks as inferiors. Family tensions caused Alexander and his mother to flee after his father divorced Olympias to marry another woman. Alexander fled, only to reconcile and return home. Even then, his position as heir seemed uncertain. That all changed in 336 BCE, when Philip was assassinated. The army rallied around Alexander, and at just 20 years old, he seized the throne, eliminating rivals and consolidating
I just
power.
turned 40.
From day
I'm
one,
gonna turn
he had his
41
sights on
in
Persia.
June.
He'd grown up hearing
Old
stories
man
about Persian
now.
vulnerability, and knew their wealth
Crazy
could pay for his
saying
powerful
that,
army
being in the
and clear
40s.
his
I don't
debts.
feel any different than when I
In
was 25,
334
if I'm being
BCE,
honest.
Alexander crossed into Asia with about 35,000 troops, leaving his trusted general Antipater in charge of Macedonia. His army wasn't just strong, it was incredibly well balanced, featuring archers, javelin throwers, heavy cavalry, and the legendary phalanx formation. Even engineers, scientists, historians, and surveyors traveled with him, a sign that Alexander was planning far more than a quick conquest. After a symbolic stop at Troy, inspired by Homer, he fought his first big battle at the Granicus River. The Persians tried to lure him into a trap mid-river, and they nearly succeeded, but Alexander won
Oh
a
yeah,
decisive
30s
victory.
are fucking sick,
Thousands
dude.
of Greek
30s are the
mercenaries fighting for
best.
Persia were killed, and the survivors were chained and sent home as a warning. This win opened up Western Asia Minor to him, and most cities surrendered quickly. In place of tyrants, Alexander set up democracies, showing off his pan-Hellenic ideals and framing himself as a liberator. He met Persia at Gaugamela in 331 BCE, a battlefield clash that sealed Athens' fate centuries ago. When Alexander captured Persepolis, he took more than the city and throne. He claimed the symbol of Persian majesty. The city was burned and the royal treasury was looted. And with the death of Darius III, Persia's story as an independent empire ended. From Cyrus's liberating vision to Darius's effective administration, with Xerxes' great ambition and Alexander's conquest, the Achaemenid Empire had seen its end.
Just like that,
Yet
you
the
know, like
story of
look
Iran
how
was just
big,
starting.
look how I mean, it was so big. And Xerxes fucked up, you know. Ultimately, I just think like overshot, and he paid for it, and the whole empire paid for it. So
And the next chapter would be the rise of the empires.
that was that part of Iranian or Persian history is not the end of it, but the beginning of it. Like the Cyrus and Darius stories are some of the best. Like they're what make Persians so proud. Okay, like something you'll see, like Iranians, Persians are very proud of their culture and where they came from, and it's because Cyrus and Darius showed things to the world that they had not seen yet. They were like the origin, like I said, like human rights. You know, like when you talk about like a document, the first document of human rights was from Cyrus. We had never seen anything like that before. They had never seen a warlord that didn't go after the other religions and went to help the other religions. So there is this maybe a little, you know, comes off like a little bit, you know, too proud maybe, but there is that's why like the whole like flattening Iran and turning it into into Gaza, which is something that I think is going to happen if we don't stop and say anything, is going to be like it's going to be one of those things where Iranians, they'll never be able to let it go. Like, it'll be just, I can't explain the kind of like shame it would bring them, and they don't see it yet. They still think that America and Israel are coming to liberate them, and it's sad. And I hope we figure it out before it's too late, as a diaspora, as a collective, that, it's okay to hate the Islamic Republic. I hate the Islamic Republic, but this wasn't the type of justice I imagined, where it's the biggest casualty events are school children and carpet bombing neighborhoods. Those aren't, statistically, all those people are anti-Islamic regime as well. You're killing our people, ultimately, so let's move on to the next chapter, which is the rise of the multiple empires. Because at this point, the Persian Empire is broken, as we know
Alexander the
it.
Great swept through Persia like a wildfire. Achaemenid Empire, centuries strong, crumbled before his armies. But Alexander's victory was short-lived. Just 7 years later, he was dead, a young king with no heir. After Alexander the Great died in 323 BCE, his vast empire was carved up by his top generals. One of them, Seleucus, became governor of Babylonia in 321 BCE, but another general, Antigonus, pushed Seleucus out. So Seleucus teamed up with Ptolemy the Hun of Egypt, defeated Antigonus's son, Demetrius, in battle, and managed to take back Babylonia in 312 BCE. That victory marked the birth of what became known as the Seleucid Empire. Seleucus didn't stop there. By 305 BCE, he had expanded his territory east to the Indus River and west to Syria and Anatolia. His big moment came in 301 BCE when he crushed Antigonus at the Battle of Ipsus. Eventually, in 281 BCE, Seleucus was assassinated by Ptolemy Carunus, the bitter son of his old ally. His son, Antiochus I, took over, followed by a line of successors including Antiochus II, Seleucus II, Seleucus III, and Antiochus III, known as Antiochus the Great. Under Antiochus III, the empire saw major administrative reforms inspired by Persian systems, but streamlined to reduce power struggles between the military and political elites. Governors called strategoi ruled the provinces, handling both civil and military duties. Key cities like Sardis in the west and Seleucia on the Tigris in the east anchored this sprawling empire. The Seleucids were a powerhouse in the Middle East, controlling important trade routes through the Taurus Mountains and the Hellespont, and spreading Greek culture far and wide.
And I think after you see like a little bit of this, you see how important this region is, even now. I mean, when you talk about the geopolitical importance of where Iran is, it's the border of, it's like the intersection of what? Eastern Asia, of Russia, of, Europe, Turkey is there, like the Middle East. It's right on the Strait of Hormuz, which I'm sure you've heard a lot in the news recently, which is, something like 30% of the world's oil goes through that every single day. It is geopolitically very, very important, and it has been bitched around by these powerhouse countries around it for so long, by Russia, by China, by America, okay? And it's because of where it's located, because it is so geographically important in the area.
Greek language, customs,
Even
and
back then.
aristocracy dominated, especially in the cities. However, not everyone welcomed this cultural takeover. The Jews, in particular, resisted fiercely when Antiochus IV tried to impose Greek religious practices, including defiling the Jewish temple. This led to the famous Maccabean revolt in 165 BCE, which eventually freed Judea from Seleucid control. Antiochus IV attempted to forcibly impose Hellenistic culture and religion on the Jewish people. He outlawed Jewish religious practices like circumcision, observance of the Sabbath, and following the kashrut, their dietary laws. To make matters worse, he erected an altar to Zeus right in the temple and ordered pigs, which were considered unclean to the Jews, to be sacrificed there. For the Jewish community, This wasn't just political oppression, it was an all-out assault on their faith and identity. A Jewish priest named Mattathias in the village of Modian started the rebellion. He refused to carry out a pagan sacrifice demanded by the Seleucid authorities. Instead, he killed the official and sparked open resistance. After Mattathias died, his son Judah Maccabee, also known as the Hammer, took over leadership. The Maccabees, as the rebels came to be known, used guerrilla warfare to defeat much larger Seleucid forces. In 164 BCE, they successfully recaptured Jerusalem and cleansed and rededicated the temple, an event celebrated in the Jewish festival of Hanukkah. The Seleucid Empire's decline began around 200 BCE. They suffered their first major defeat.
Yeah,
against
happy
the
early
rising
birthday,
Romans
Elron.
in 190 BCE.
You old man.
One by one, territory slipped away. Greek cities regained independence, and new kingdoms like Pergamum and Cappadocia broke free. Eastern lands like Parthia and Bactria declared independence too. Even though Antiochus III managed to briefly reclaim parts of Syria and Armenia, the empire's days were numbered. After Antiochus IV died in 164 BCE, things unravelled quickly. They lost Commagene, Judea, and eventually almost everything east of the Euphrates. By 64 BCE, when Rome finally took over, the once mighty Seleucid Empire had shrunk to just a sliver of territory in Syria and Cilicia, which was barely hanging on. For over a century, the Seleucids had ruled vast territories, from Syria to the Indus, bringing with them Hellenistic cities, Greek theatres, and the worship of Olympian gods. Now their time was over. There were new players on the field, and they were the Parthians.
The
Parthians
Parthians.
were a nomadic
One of the
Iranian people,
first
originally from
one of the
Central Asia.
first videos I made on
They
TikTok
gradually
was about
moved
the
into region of
Parthians.
Parthia, and over time settled, adopting the local language and customs. Around 250 BCE, a leader of the Parni, named Arsacides, who may have
Very
once served as a
cool.
governor
They're a
of the
very
Greco-Bactrian
cool part
kingdom
of
Herodotus,
the Persian
seized the opportunity
timeline as
presented
well.
by Seleucid weakness. Arsaces revolted.
Literally
established his
invented
own
like the
independent rule
horse
in
shot,
Parthia,
like
and thus
the
founded the
backwards horse
Arsacid
arrow shot
dynasty,
or something. I
which would go
forget
on to
exactly
rule
what
for
it
nearly
was.
5
I'm sure.
centuries.
I don't know if they'll talk
His
about it,
successors
but we'll look it
solidified
up if they
control
don't.
along the southern shores of the Caspian Sea and gradually expanded their territory, challenging Seleucid dominance and asserting themselves as a new power in the Iranian plateau. The Parthian state transformed from its nomadic origins into a formidable empire, especially under the leadership of
Because
Mithridates
that's
I,
what it is from
who
it.
reigned
It's like
from
Age of Empires,
171
yeah, man.
to
Like the
138
Assyrians
BCE.
and for sure
Mithridates I
Persians.
significantly expanded the
Depending on
empire's
like what the
boundaries,
timeline is, yeah,
conquering
these were
Media,
absolutely
Babylonia, and much of what
Mesopotamians,
became
Babylonians,
Seleucid territory
absolutely
in Mesopotamia.
was Age of
The empire continued to
Empires
grow under rulers
lore.
like Artabanus II, who further extended Parthian influence
I love that
over
game.
the Iranian plateau and the Tigris-Euphrates valley. However, expansion was not without challenges. The Parthians faced persistent threats on their northeastern borders from nomadic tribes, including the Scythians, whose raids destabilized the frontier regions. These invasions tested the resilience of the Arsacid dynasty. One of the most significant Parthian monarchs was Mithridates II the Great, who reigned from 123 to 88 BCE. Mithridates II restored Parthian power by decisively defeating the Scythians and securing the empire's eastern borders. By 92 BCE, Mithridates II was powerful enough to engage diplomatically with the Roman Republic, concluding the first formal treaty between Parthia and Rome. This marked the beginning of a long and tumultuous relationship between the two great powers of the ancient world. Despite occasional uprisings and
Yeah,
border
we're always
conflicts,
fucking with the white boys, you know.
Mithridates II
We still
maintained control
do,
over
I
Iran
guess. But
and
we,
northern
we fuck with the
Mesopotamia
Greeks,
until
we
his
fuck with
death.
the Romans.
The period following Mithridates
know.
II's reign
We gotta
was
check
marked
them
by
once in a
political
while. Fucking bunch
instability.
of white boys running around,
Stability
you know,
was briefly restored
with our
when an
horses. We
elderly
come with our
nobleman
horses and our
named
arrows,
Sanctuses,
whatever.
possibly a descendant of Mithridates I, was placed on the throne with the backing of Central Asian
Camels.
tribes around 76 or 75 BC.
Camels famously
However,
very
real
good
order
against
only
horses.
returned under his son, Phraates III, who ruled from 70 to 58 BCE, managed to stabilize the empire and assert Parthian authority once again. The Parthian Empire at its height was a complex and multi-ethnic state that combined Persian imperial traditions with Hellenistic cultural elements inherited from the Seleucids. The Arsacid rulers maintained the old Persian title of King of Kings.
This is the mix
while
of the
allowing considerable
baklava. This is when the
autonomy
mix of
to
the
powerful noble
baklava
families
started.
and local governors.
Persians will love
The
telling you, like,
decentralization
oh,
of power
we,
would
the
eventually be
Persians
fatal
did the
for the Parthian
baklava,
Empire.
you know?
The empire was particularly renowned for its military prowess, especially its cavalry and horse archers, whose famous tactics, such as the famed Parthian shot, where mounted archers could fire arrows while retreating, proved devastating against
The
enemies like the
Parthian
Romans.
shot. So fucking badass,
The
dude.
Parthians clashed with Rome multiple times over control of Armenia, Syria, and Mesopotamia. One of their greatest military victories came at the Battle of Kari in 53 BCE, where Parthian cavalry annihilated a Roman army led by Crassus, one of the members of Rome's first triumvirate. He expected an easy victory. Instead, he walked into a desert trap at Carrhae, where the Parthians unleashed their cavalry. Crassus was defeated, his son killed, and Rome humiliated.
I really can't wait till we get to
Despite this
like
success, the Parthians were often on the defensive.
the
as the Romans
1900s. That's when
consistently
shit
weakened
gets
their defenses.
fucking wild.
The
For
political structure of the
Iran.
empire.
I mean, before
with its
that it
reliance
does
on
too, but
noble
like
families and
when you
semi-autonomous
talk about like
regions,
current
made
modern
it difficult
history,
to mount sustained
a
centralized
lot of things
resistance
will become
against
clear.
external threats. Nonetheless, Parthia remained a key power for centuries, controlling vital trade routes.
This is pretty
including the
good so
Silk
far,
Road,
though. I
and
mean,
acting as
it's
a cultural and economic bridge.
I mean, this
between
part
East
of
and
the
West.
timeline is kind of boring,
By the
right?
3rd
Because
century
it's
CE,
not
the
the
Parthian
politics
state
of
started
this
to visibly
time
decline.
don't really
The decline in
affect
Parthian power
what's
was
going
fueled by
on
ongoing
today.
civil
That's
wars,
probably, I mean, when
devastating
you get to
smallpox
like the
outbreaks, and
1900s,
repeated
that's
Roman
when it's
invasions
going to
that
make
even
a
saw the
difference. But
sacking
right
of the
now, you
Parthian
get more of like
capital,
a
Ctesiphon.
cultural, traditional
The
sense
last years of the
of,
Arsacids were
of
dominated
where
by a bitter
Persian
power
culture
struggle
comes
between two
from,
brothers.
you know, and how it's a
Polygenes
mix
VI, ruling
of
from Ctesiphon, and
Arab
Artabanus IV,
culture,
who controlled
African
Media and
culture,
Khuzestan.
Greek,
Roman interference worsened the
Roman. It's its
situation,
own
as
culture,
Emperor Caracalla
obviously,
played one
and
brother
how it
against the
affected
other,
all those cultures
eventually
too.
launching attacks that left Armenian forts in ruin. Even though Artabanus briefly defeated the Romans, his authority was shaken, opening the door for new challengers to step forward. One of these challengers was a man known as Lord Sasan, a warrior priest who guarded the sacred fire temple of the goddess Anahid at Estakhr. Through marriage into the local Bazrangid royal family of Fars, his son Papak began to rise in prominence, assisted by his sons Shapur and Ardashir. This family prided itself on its royal ancestry, dating back to the Achaemenid era. They even left images of themselves on the walls of Persepolis, signalling their ambition to revive the grandeur of ancient Persia. Ardashir, the most ambitious of the brothers, seized control of the fortress of Darabgerd and soon launched an open rebellion around 212 CE, claiming he was destined to restore Persian greatness and unite the fractured land. His coins, which bore both his image and that of his father, symbolized his defiance and his royal aspirations. After his brother Shapur's accidental death, Ardashir became the uncontested head of the family. Ardashir wasted no time asserting himself. Over the next 12 years, he conquered neighbouring rulers across Fars and beyond, taking care to invest in modern armoury, while his Parthian rivals clung to outdated military styles. In 224 CE, he met Artabanus IV in a final battle at Hormozgan and defeated him decisively, assuming the ancient Persian title King of Kings of Iran. To commemorate his victory, Ardashir ordered majestic rock reliefs carved near his capital, showing the supreme god, Ormazd, bestowing the symbol of kingship upon him. His conquest didn't stop there. He marched on Ctesiphon, some subdued parts of Armenia and northwest Arabia, and even pressed eastward into Kushan territory, establishing what became known as the Kushano-Sasanian kingdom. Ardashir later turned back westward, attacking Roman frontier towns and besieging the city of Hatra, which fell in 240 CE. Ardashir's military successes brought him face to face with the Romans, and he presented himself not just as a new ruler, but as the true heir of the ancient Achaemenids, reviving Persian claims over Eastern Roman lands. He introduced a new imperial coinage in silver and gold, reviving the use of gold coins reminiscent of the ancient Persian kings. His coins bore his portrait on the obverse, while the reverse side displayed a sacred fire.
This shit
along with
always blows my
inscriptions.
mind when they like create
These coins were
currency
symbolic,
like
as they broadcast his religious and political message.
excuse me.
Ardashir
Like when they're
was not just any king.
when the
He was
the,
the
fir-
chosen
the,
ruler
fir-
of a
the
land
first
whose
people to
rulers
think
descended
about
from the
creating
gods.
currency, it just
The Sasanians claimed the old title
blows
of
my mind,
Iran
like
Shah, or
how the
Empire of
idea
the
came
Iranians,
about when there was never
reflecting
any
Ardashir's
currency
ambition
before.
to unite all Iranian peoples under one throne. This term not only evoked ancient Persian unity, but also carried deep cultural and religious significance.
Even things like the
His
post
reign marked the
office, the
start of the
postal
so-called
service, it's
Second
like one of
Persian
it's like
Empire,
okay,
which for the next
now
4
it seems
centuries
like
stood as a
yeah, it
global
makes
power,
sense.
rivaling Rome
But
and
someone had to
Byzantium,
make sense of
an
it the
ancient
first
Greek
time.
city. Ardashir's legacy extended beyond warfare and conquest. He was remembered as a model king, founder of cities, great administrator, and promoter of Zoroastrianism. He carefully replaced unreliable vassal kings with his own relatives and followed the Parthian precedent of balancing power by entrusting high offices to influential noble families. including many of Parthian descent. These aristocratic houses intermarried with the Sasanian royal family and continued to wield enormous influence in both military and civil affairs. Ardashir is also credited with initiating cultural reforms, including the development of the Sasanian calendar and, according to tradition, the invention of backgammon. His political testament, known as the Aitid, became a respected manual on kingship and
Backgammon
statecraft,
is a
inspiring rulers
very
even into the
popular
Islamic period.
game still in Iran. It's at every
In the
like
religious sphere,
restaurant,
the Sasanian world
every
was initially
coffee shop.
pluralistic,
There's
but this started to
backgammon
change
games.
with the rise of new religious movements, especially Manichaeism. Manichaeism was founded by Mani, a prophet from Babylon who aimed to blend Zoroastrianism, Buddhism, and Christianity into a new universal faith.
Backgammon's awesome.
Mani claimed his teachings
really
were
fun.
superior to
And it's a
previous
very like it's
religions
a crazy
and offered the only
pastime. It's like one
true
of those
path to
things where
salvation.
men
He even
or
used
yeah,
Zoroastrian
mostly
terms
men
to
in
explain
Iran,
his
if I'm
faith,
being honest. So like
which angered Zoroastrian clergies.
women will play backgammon
The powerful
indoors,
Zoroastrian high priest Kierda
but it's
played
still
a
one of
key
those
role
things where
in
it's like
shaping the empire's
women
religious
can't fucking
policies.
enjoy themselves in public,
Initially
you know.
serving under Ardashir the Fier and Shapur the Fier,
But it's one of those
Kierda
things where you
steadily
go to a
gained influence,
restaurant and like while you're
eventually
waiting for
becoming the head
food or
of the
you know
Zoroastrian
while you're
church under
drinking
kings like
tea, which
Hormozd
tea
and
is very
Bahrami.
big in Persian culture, way
Persuaded
more
the
than
monarchy
coffee.
to back
As much as we love
Zoroastrianism
coffee,
as the
they
empire's
love
national
tea
religion,
over there.
due to the growing influence of Christianity from the Roman Empire. Mani's bold theological claims and his refusal to submit to royal authority made him a marked man. King Bahram I of the Sasanian Empire, under pressure from Kierda and the Zoroastrian establishment, had Mani tried and executed in 274 CE. This event symbolized the growing fusion of religious orthodoxy and state power in the Sasanian world. Kierda's inscriptions boast of smashing pagan idols, building
Oh,
fire
that's sick.
temples,
That's
and
awesome. I
converting
love that.
non-Zoroastrians. He even claimed to have suppressed Jews, Buddhists, Brahmins,
A
Christians,
leather
and
case
Manichaeans across
backgammon
the
set
empire.
must have
However,
been like a
modern
custom-made
historians view
thing.
Kierda's statements as exaggerated. While these religious conflicts simmered, political instability was also brewing. After Bahram I, his successors faced both internal revolts and external threats. Bahram II, for instance, had to put down a rebellion led by his brother Hormozd, while simultaneously facing the Roman Emperor Carus, who briefly marched on the Sasanian capital, Ctesiphon. Carus's mysterious death spared the empire further devastation.
Where'd you get that set, Joe?
Bahram II's reign, however, wasn't just marked by conflict.
If you don't mind me
It
asking.
also saw remarkable cultural
What's the lore
achievements.
behind the set?
Sasanian art reached new heights of realism and elegance, as seen in rock carvings and the coinage. The inclusion of Shahpurduk-Stak, Queen of Queens, on coins suggested that women in the royal family held significant symbolic status. Following Bahram II's death was an internal succession crisis.
Hold on, I wanted to. Did they talk about the
Reached
women?
new heights of realism and elegance, as seen in rock carvings and the coinage. The inclusion of Shahpurduk-Stak, Queen of Queens, on coins suggested that women in the royal family held significant symbolic status.
Yeah.
Following Bahram II's death was an internal succession crisis. Eventually,
This was the
majority
Sasanian
invited Narset,
Empire,
the great king of Armenia, and a member
where
of the royal
like
family,
there's
to
always
restore
been
order.
again Persian
In his
empires have always
inscriptions at
been
Paikuli, which is
kind
in modern
of-
Iraq. Narset portrayed his ascent as divinely
they
guided
always like
and
kind of
rooted in
like
ancient royal traditions.
lean towards
To
freedom.
assert his
That was
legitimacy,
the whole
he even carved his name
the whole part
in
of
that Bahram II in an
Zoroastrianism
earlier royal
was about
relief.
freedom.
After a period of turmoil,
And
Narset,
purity.
the Sasanian king, sought to bring back the spirit of religious tolerance, practiced by the empire's founders, Ardashir I and Shapur I.
Religious tolerance.
His reign,
you know,
however,
what they're
is most
talking about now.
remembered for his disastrous war with Rome. Although he initially defeated the Roman general Galerius, Narset eventually suffered a crushing defeat.
And sick fucking beards and manes, dude. Look at this guy. God damn, I was born with fucked up genetics, dude. I have thin hair, so I have to like, and thank God I have a round fucking head because I can look like a basketball. But this guy, dude, has an insane mane, dude. What the hell, bro?
that forced Persia into
He's even got it tied up there. He's got it tied up.
an
Little
unfavorable
goatee.
peace treaty
so
in
jealous.
299
Persians have
CE.
great hair normally.
This
Okay,
treaty
don't
ceded
let me
5
trick you.
provinces beyond the Tigris River to Rome, recognized the Tigris as the official boundary between the empires, and handed Armenia and Iberia over to Roman influence.
Oh hell yeah, Joe,
Narset
that's
died
sick.
not long after, leaving behind an empire that had lost both
I can't grow a
land
beard
and
for shit. It's
prestige.
potentially my biggest physical defect. Yeah. at
His
least
successor,
I can grow a
Hormozd
beard.
II,
Okay, that's
faced
fair.
significant internal
Like
opposition.
it's almost like
The
it's
nobility,
swapped,
always
you
a
know.
powerful force in
But I feel
Sasanian
your
politics,
pain. I feel your
murdered
pain.
his
Absolutely.
heir, blinded one son, imprisoned another, and eventually installed Shapur II.
Every one of
who was
these
still an
guys throughout the
unborn child
timelines
at the
had
time of his
ridiculous
selection
beards,
as
dude.
king.
Like, it's fucking
Shapur II's early
insane.
years were chaotic. In the south, Arab tribes raided Persian territory, devastating cities and farmland in Fars and Khuzestan. In response, Shapur led brutal military campaigns to punish the Arabs and built a defensive barrier known as Shapur's Ditch to secure the frontier. The Arabs nicknamed him the Piercer of Shapur.
Okay, so I'm gonna pause it here too and just tell you guys that. So you guys have heard me refer to the fact that Iranians, Pahlavis, monarchists, a lot of Iranians, not just Pahlavis and monarchists too, but they are a big portion of it. Iranians are very Islamophobic. Let me repeat. Iranians are very Islamophobic, believe it or not. Okay, I know it's crazy because we are taught that the Middle East is a monolith and every country, speaks the same language and they all think the same thing. And if some right-wing jihadist on Twitter says something crazy, that every Middle Eastern ears flick up at the same time. No, it's not like that, right? And Iranians have such a hatred right now towards Arab countries, towards Islamic countries, because of this period of time now that you will start learning about, because of the Arab tribes. And they will say some egregious shit, like we used to be white and now we're brown because the Arab tribes came and arred and pillaged our tribes or our homes, So naturally or unnaturally, because this is going to sound crazy too, Iranians hate Palestinians. And again, I say Iranians, I'm not generalizing everyone, but a large portion of those that hate the Islamic Republic also hate Gaza, because the enemy of my enemy is my friend type of thing. That's why they love Israel. Okay, because Israel represents a liberator for them. And they look at the Palestinians and they say, well, the Islamic Republic of Iran, my government is giving all my money to these groups in the Middle East that are shooting rockets, like Hezbollah, Hamas, which is true. Iran arms proxies around the Middle East to fuck with Israel. They want you to believe they care about Palestinians, the Iranian government. They don't either. Okay, the Iranian government does not care about Palestinians. They use Palestinians as a cudgel against the West. Look at how the world is looking at Iran right now with the sympathy, right? There's a sympathy for Iran right now, which is terrifying for Iranians. The biggest fear for Iranians is that the government of Israel might have just turned Khamenei into a fucking martyr for the Middle East, because it's not Iranians that are protesting his death. It's the rest of the Middle East. America is not showing news of embassies in Pakistan being attacked by people over his death. In Saudi Arabia, people are upset because Khamenei, again, I'm not defending Khamenei. I hate Khamenei, right? Most Iranians do. But Khamenei wasn't just a leader. He was a religious symbol as well. He was an Ayatollah. This has importance outside of Iran. It has importance to Shia Muslims everywhere. So it's a double kill, right? And it's not something, again, it's not a defense of Khamenei. It's an attack on our ill preparedness, that we thought we could just go in there, smack down one guy and all of a sudden it's over. No, we've buzzed the hornet nest now, and Iranians are terrified. Yeah, especially Ramadan, done by design, right? And Iranians are terrified that you are going to create a martyr out of Khamenei, that you are going to create so much sympathy for the Iranian government that they're just going to go run back to their abusers, right? They're just going to go run back to the government that they fought so hard against for so long. And I think these are the these are the things that these are the nuanced things, right, that exist in the culture in Iran. Things that we, they want to tell us it's simple. It's not fucking simple, you know. And yeah, this the Sunni Shia, you know, and again, that's why they split the Shia. This is a little bit of a rant, but like, I mean, this is why we have created the borders the way we have. I mean, Shia Muslims are split between 3 or 4 different countries. That's done by design. Iran is the only majority Shia country, but Pakistan has a lot of Shia. Iraq has a fuck ton of Shia. They might even be majority Shia now. I'm not sure. So Iraq has kind of become a proxy of Iran, because while the government is like a proxy of America, the people in Iraq are more supportive of Iran because they're Shia. And those borders were created to split people up by design. And to weaken them. And again, I bring up the Kurds as another example. If you look up the Kurds, we're going to learn a lot about the Kurds in the coming days. I'm sure you're hearing about them now. They're not new. They've been there too. They're one of the rebel groups out there. And so yeah, so just to put a bow on it, when you hear Persians talk badly about Arabs and Islam and everything that's bad about like Islam and radical Islam, like it comes from this period of time where there's this big fighting between the Arab tribes and the Persian Empire, or what's left of the current Persian Empire.
Because of his harsh tactics.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Kurds. We will talk about the Kurds because the Kurds are going to be a very important part of the future of Iran. I always thought they should be a part of the future of Iran, but I hope they don't take the bait from the American government like they have every fucking year, or every time, and get abandoned by the Americans when Iran comes and fucks them up, They deserve their own country. I'm going to be real. Like, if you're Turkish, Syrian, Iranian, or Iraqi, you're not going to like me saying that, but you know what? They're probably the most legit group of those 4 fucking countries.
To the northeast, nomadic Hunnic tribes known as the Kainites threatened Persia's borders. Shapur balanced fighting these eastern enemies with frequent wars against Rome, sometimes having to rush back and forth between the 2 fronts. Hostilities began when Constantine the Great, who had embraced Christianity, offered refuge to a Persian prince and began supporting Christian communities inside Persia and Armenia. These tensions sparked nearly continuous warfare from 337 to 359 CE. Shapur's forces achieved repeated victories, capturing key Roman strongholds like Amida and Singara. The high point came in 363, when the Roman Emperor Julian, known for his military prowess, launched a massive invasion of Persia. Though he succeeded in reaching Ctesiphon, Persia's capital, a fierce counterattack forced him to retreat, during which Julian was killed. His successor Jovian signed a humiliating peace treaty, returning Persian lands and ceding important Roman border towns. Shapur used this moment to annex Armenia and other border regions, restoring Persia's standing as the dominant power in the east. For nearly 3 decades, Shapur II fought the Romans without suffering a single defeat, earning respect even from his enemies. His empire stretched across 18 major provinces, covering territories from Mesopotamia and Iran to Central Asia and beyond. Internally, Shapur II was burdened with the rapid rate at which Christianity was spreading, especially in Armenia, where it had become the official religion. Many Christians in Persia sympathized with the Christian Roman emperors and were viewed as potential traitors. They were accused of mocking Zoroastrianism, refusing military service, and even collaborating with Roman spies. In response, Shapur cracked down. He called together religious councils led by the Zoroastrian high priest Adobad, son of Maharshband. After theological debates, Zoroastrianism was declared the superior faith, and a royal decree followed. No false religions would be tolerated. This marked the formal establishment of Zoroastrianism as the empire's state religion, complete with a powerful clerical hierarchy. This religious consolidation also led to the creation of the Avestan alphabet, designed to preserve the sacred Zoroastrian texts with precise phonetic accuracy.
I met someone. The Avestan alphabet is an extinct alphabet that not many people know how to speak, if anyone. Like, you probably need to use like official scripts you can't really phonetically create a sentence. Like there are phrases and sentences that exist. But I actually met someone who like spoke it, which is fucking weird. They're ethno-nationalists, really. If you can speak that language, you're probably like an ethno-nationalist Iranian. Like,
Or in religion, it also left a rich cultural legacy. His coinage is abundant and detailed, reflecting different phases of his long life. Persian art flourished, producing magnificent silver plates showing the king hunting boars and lions, classic symbols of royal authority. Stucco busts and grand rock reliefs, such as those at Take Bostan, depict Shapur alongside his successors and gods like Mithra. One famous relief shows Shapur handing the royal diadem to his brother Ardashir II, while the defeated Roman emperor Julian lies beneath their feet, a striking image of Persian triumph over Rome. Carvings on stone show the scene: Shapur on horseback, Valerian kneeling in submission. It was more than propaganda, it was a symbol. The East had risen again. The Sassanid period was a golden age of architecture, religion, and art. At Ctesiphon, the Tak Kasra, or Arch of Khosrow, still stands as one of the largest single-span brick arches ever built. Fire temples blazed across the land, and stone carvings narrated tales of divine right, royal conquest, and heavenly order. Sassanid metalwork, textiles, and ceramics were prized across the known world. Court life was rich with music, poetry, and elaborate rituals. In the decades following the death of Shapur II, the Sasanian Empire entered a prolonged era of political instability, social unrest, and religious tension that would persist for nearly a century and a half. His successor, Shapur III, who reigned from 383 to 388, was a just and compassionate
Jesus
monarch,
is coming,
deeply
guys.
admired by his subjects. He ended the persecution of Christians and negotiated a peace treaty with the Eastern Roman Empire that divided
time is
Armenia
coming.
between the two powers, establishing Persian control over a larger portion of the region.
Oh wait,
Yet
are we
Shapur
80?
III, too,
Are we
fell
still
victim
BC? We're
to
still
the
BC,
hostility
right?
of the elites and was assassinated. Bahram
No,
IV,
we're 80.
who
Never
followed,
mind. I
was
lied.
similarly committed to justice
Jesus
and
is
achieved
here, guys.
military victories against Hunnic invasions, but his attempts to discipline his commanders led to his murder in 399 CE. This persistent aristocratic opposition shaped the reign of Yazdegerd I, one of the most remarkable rulers of the Sasanian era. Intelligent, highly educated, and known for his nobility of character, Yazdegerd strove to
I
curtail the
expect
power of the
all of
nobility
you
and
to
the
remember
clergy
every
while
single
promoting
one of
religious
these fucking
tolerance.
names. Okay?
He granted Christians and Jews freedom
And
of
the
worship,
spelling.
allowed the establishment of an autonomous Persian church, and earned admiration from Jewish communities
Not
who
fucking
hailed
around.
him as a new Cyrus. Yazdegerd even maintained friendly relations with Rome, acting as guardian to the child emperor Theodosius. However, his progressive policies enraged the powerful classes, who accused him of numerous offences, branded him a sinner, and ultimately assassinated him in a remote area. Determined
Yeah.
to prevent his family from reclaiming power, the nobles killed his son Shapur and reluctantly accepted
Yeah.
another son, Bahram V, who seized the throne with military backing from Arab allies.
Quick,
Bahram
third
V,
ruler of the
who ruled from
Arachnid
421
Empire
to 438 CE,
in
renewed persecution of Christians,
590
partly in response to Christian missionary activity,
BC.
which sparked a brief war with Byzantium. The eventual peace agreement mandated mutual religious tolerance and established financial support from Byzantium for the defense of the Caucasian passes.
How dare you.
Yazdegerd II, Bahram's son, encouraged intellectual inquiry and initially maintained friendly relations with Christian communities. However, when Christian unrest erupted in Armenia and elsewhere, Yazdegerd launched efforts to restore
Hey, Matt, what's up, buddy?
dominance,
Hope you're
sending
good.
his vizier,
Thanks for saying hi.
Mernase, to reconvert Armenia. An
You're
endeavor
missing out
that
on
failed.
some
The
Persian
death of
culture,
Yazdegerd II
bro.
ushered in yet another round of
We could be
instability.
brothers by the end of this
His
documentary. You
eldest
never
son,
know.
Hormuz III, was swiftly overthrown.
Just kidding, we are
and killed by
brothers.
Bahram the Meharan, who installed
Maybe you
more
don't want to be
acceptable
my
Peroz
brother
on
by the end
throne.
of this documentary.
Peroz initially succeeded in suppressing revolts and defending Persia's northern borders, but his reign ended in catastrophe. He faced a new and formidable enemy, the Hephthalite Huns, who had seized large swathes of Central Asia and posed an existential threat to the Sasanian realm. Despite early victories, Peroz suffered a crushing defeat in 484 CE, losing his life and his army in a disastrous campaign against the Hephthalites. The invaders annexed vast territories in eastern Iran and imposed a heavy annual tribute on the humiliated empire. This defeat, compounded by years of famine, left Persia politically and economically shattered. the nobility placed his brother Balash on the throne. Balash was a gentle and peace-loving ruler who granted Christians freedom of worship and permitted the flourishing of Nestorian Christianity within Persia's borders. Nestorianism, which emphasized the distinct human and divine natures of Christ, provided an alternative to the Roman Church and was more acceptable within the Zoroastrian environment. However, despite his tolerance and mild rule, Balash was unable to restore Persia's fortunes. With the empire in financial ruin and Byzantium
Because he didn't have a
refusing to pay
beard.
the
That
traditional
was his
subsidies
fucking
for defending
downfall.
the Caucasus,
That's,
the
I mean,
nobility
the
lost
first thing I
patience.
would have told you, brother, is
Balash
like,
was
how are you
deposed
gonna
and
be a
blinded,
leader
replaced
of
by
the
Kavadh
Persian
I,
empires without a
son of the
goddamn beard?
ill-fated
See, this
Khalid.
guy knew what he was doing.
Kavadh I inherited
that
an
fucking
empire on the
beard.
brink of collapse.
Unbelievable.
The treasury was empty, famine
Recession
and war had
indicator.
devastated the land, and
No
Persia
beard.
was still obliged to pay tribute to the Hephthalites. The aristocracy had grown dangerously powerful, while the common people faced deepening poverty and despair. It was in this atmosphere of discontent that the revolutionary movement known as Mazdakism took root. Preaching radical social equality, the redistribution of wealth, and the communal sharing of property and even women, the
Socialism.
Mazdakites offered a vision of justice and reform that resonated with the desperate masses.
Does this sound familiar to you guys? Let's go back 30 seconds. Hold on. I want you guys to listen to who the mass. I don't know what do you say, the mass? I've never heard of this before. This is the first time I've heard of this. So let's listen to this together. Mass theism. Mass theism. All right.
Had grown dangerous.
Hold on. Let's put this at normal time here. The aristocracy. All right, the aristocracy had grown dangerously. I can't fucking talk right now. All right.
Powerful, while the common people faced deepening poverty and despair. It was in this atmosphere of discontent that the revolutionary movement known as Mazdakism took root. Preaching radical social equality, the redistribution of wealth, and the communal sharing of property and even women, the Mazdakites offered a vision of justice.
Oh,
and reform
communal
that
sharing of
resonated
women.
with
Okay,
desperate
maybe
masses.
not. All right. So,
By
I'm
the early
sorry.
6th century,
All right, I take it back.
the Sasanian
Terrible.
Empire found itself
The fuck are we
beset on
talking
all
about here?
sides by
Everything
foreign
else
enemies,
seemed pretty good,
internal rebellions,
you know, up until the
religious
sharing
divisions,
of women
and
part,
deepening
and then it
social
just kind of
inequality.
fell apart.
Yet despite this turbulence,
probably why I'd never
the
heard of
empire
it.
survived and would, under Kavad's son Khosrow I, embark on a path of recovery, reform, and renewed imperial strength. The tumultuous century from 379 to 531 CE, therefore, stands as one of the most critical and in many ways transformative chapters in the long history of Sasanian Iran. After witnessing the devastating effects of Mazdakism, Kavadh finally decisively shifted his policies toward the restoration of Zoroastrian orthodoxy and the consolidation of royal authority. He orchestrated the massacre of the Mazdakite heretics, whose teachings on wealth redistribution and communal living had shaken the foundations of the Sasanian state. The upheaval had already weakened the nobility, many of whom had been killed, impoverished, or displaced during the Mazdakite movement. Kavadh abolished the office of Artesh Tarantsala, demoted the chief Zoroastrian clergy, and restructured the military command by replacing the generalissimo with 4 regional commanders. He also diminished the authority of the prime minister through the creation of the new office of Astabed, the chief of the royal household. Alongside these political reforms, Kavadh introduced a new tax system based on land ownership and a more equitable assessment of income.
Property
This
tax.
system, later fully implemented by
Boo!
his son
New Hampshire
and
boos,
successor,
Kavad,
Khosrow Fia
and
Anosharabin,
Khosrow.
significantly
Fuck your
eroded
property
the power of
tax.
the entrenched nobility, elevated the lower aristocracy, and brought them closer to the monarchy. Kavadh further reclaimed the exclusive right to designate his heir.
I love women.
And in his later
Listen.
years, Kavadh carefully
Listen here, Joe. Listen here, Joe. Okay. I fucking love women. And If it was up to me, and I mean this, okay? Quote me here. Not only am I ready for a woman president, not only am I ready for a all-woman government, I think we need a female president. We need more females in positions of power because women are moderating influences. They are. And if you disagree with me, then you need to go outside and talk to a few, okay? Because wherever there is no women, wherever there is a lack of women influences, it's just fucking hell there. It's a bunch of fucking gooner incel men that want to just take away our rights and fucking go on a 4chan and be racist and shit. You know, it is, think about it, like the military when it was just men, the government when it was just men, radical religion. It is the worst. It is the worst. I'm sick of it. I am becoming a fucking misandrist. I am. I'm starting to fucking hate men. I really am. I don't know how else. I get like gender fucking embarrassment sometimes. Really. And it's because these motherfuckers can hide on the internet and be little bitches on the internet without anyone calling them out. But if they were just required, there are parts of me that wishes we could trust some of these governments in making us use our IDs to like use Discord and TikTok. I wish some of it was like, I wish I could believe that they were going to be legit and honest and good to protect us, because then I would like to see these men fucking behave on the internet when we know who they are, when you are required to put a face behind every fucking word that you say. Then we'll see how tough you are going into every woman's comment sections. Oh my God, I just got a violation warning on TikTok. Fuck you, TikTok. How about that? Pedophile defender, TikTok. Fuck your violation. Every fucking time, okay? Every fucking time. If I could trust the government, I would full-fledged be 100% for putting your ID to make an account. Put your face behind the words, you fucking cowards. Unbelievable. And fuck you, TikTok, and your fucking violation.
He selected his son, Khosrow, over another son,
Got me all
Taus,
riled up.
who was aligned with the remnants
TikTok sucks
of
anyway.
the Mazdakite faction. To secure this succession and foster peace, Kavad sought the Byzantine emperor Justin's guardianship for Khosrow, a gesture Justin rejected, fearing it might give Persia claims over the Roman Empire. This diplomatic failure sparked renewed hostilities between Persia and Byzantium.
All that to
leading
say,
to a
women are
protracted
moderating
war
influences,
marked by
okay?
shifting fortunes.
Men behave themselves
Kavad's
generally
reign
around
ended
women.
with his death in 531.
Generally.
Leaving a legacy of restored central authority, military engagement with Byzantium, and social reforms that set the stage for his son's reign. Khosrow I, Anushiravan, inherited a kingdom that still simmered with internal tensions. Though some nobles
It's
supported
true.
his claim, others conspired against
Seriously,
him,
like
prompting
I joke, I say pedo defender TikTok, but the only warnings I've ever gotten on TikTok is this, and when I called a Trump a pedo, or when I said he was in the list. I said he was in the list, and I got an account strike for saying that. Yet there's a guy who has 1 million fucking likes on a video saying that Iran bombed its own school, and that shit is still up. Fuck TikTok, dude. Honestly, I'm here because I met all you guys here. I love it for that, because like of the community that I built here. But God, it sucks. The app sucks.
the new king to suppress these threats, including the final elimination of the Mazdakite state, movement and its leader. Determined to heal the social wounds left by the Mazdakite excesses,
I had to
Khosrow
check
offered
too when I
economic
said
support,
Trump is a
land,
pedo again
and legal
to make sure that
security for
TikTok's
those
not going to outright
His
ban me.
reign marked a
Yeah, I
period
see you,
of
TikTok.
profound transformation.
And the 5 viewers. I'm not talking to
completed
the
the
viewers
fiscal
in TikTok,
reforms
okay? I like
begun
you
by
guys.
his
Thank you for
father
coming. I appreciate
and
it. I love you
centralized
guys.
power by turning feudal lords into salaried officials loyal to the
I'm
crown.
realizing now that the people in TikTok might have
The
thought I
tax
was talking
system
to
was
them.
overhauled to ensure fairness,
I'm looking right at them
regularity, and relief for the
saying it.
poor. taxation became more predictable, based on land productivity, and the oppressive death tax was abolished. With domestic stability secured, Khosrow turned to foreign affairs. He formed a crucial alliance with the expanding Turkish Empire under Karganistami, jointly defeating the Hephthalite Empire that had long troubled Persia's eastern borders. Although this victory freed Persia from Hephthalite dominance, it brought new challenges as the Turks emerged as powerful rivals. Khosrow I earned the epithet Ar-Noshiravan, meaning of the immortal soul, reflecting his enduring
They couldn't if they
reputation
tried
as
now.
a just and wise ruler. Both Persian and even some Byzantine sources admired him as a lover
I
of
apologize for
philosophy
my
and
outburst.
knowledge. He believed that justice
not to
was
you,
the
TikTok.
divine foundation of kingship, and that it should be administered
I've literally
impartially
never heard
to
Meat
all
Space
segments of
before,
society.
Joe. This is the first time.
While
if they were
faithful
saying
to
it,
Zoroastrianism,
I didn't hear it back
he
then either.
promoted religious
Bean
tolerance,
Space.
offering protection
I
and freedom of
never heard of
worship
that either.
to Christians, Jews, and other faiths. His reign saw the translation of philosophical,
Bean soup?
medical, and astronomical works from Greek, Syriac, and Indian sources, fostering a climate of intellectual curiosity. One of Khosrow's most significant contributions was the compilation of the Qaswad-i Namag, a royal chronicle that later influenced Islamic-era historiography. The death of Khosrow marked a significant turning point in Sasanian history, as the forces of the old aristocracy and the powerful Zoroastrian clergy sought to reclaim their waning influence. His successor, Hormozd IV, who reigned from 579 to 589, proved to be an educated but proud and suspicious ruler. Declaring himself a champion of the common people, Hormozd enraged the clergy by rejecting their demands to limit the rights of non-Zoroastrians. At the empire's borders, chaos reigned. Arab tribes raided the western frontiers, and nomadic groups identified in various sources as Hephthalites or Turks invaded the eastern province of Khorasan.
God
The
damn.
distinguished general Bahram Chobin,
Arabs.
hailing from the Arsacids
Covenant,
lineage, scored
take us,
victories
the damn
against these
Turks.
invaders,
My
but was
mom is
driven to rebellion
part Turk.
by
So that's like a
Hormozd's
part of our.
distrust and
She's
ingratitude.
Azeri, half Azeri.
With the support
she
of other
speaks Turkish as well.
discontented nobles, Hormozd was deposed and executed, clearing the path for Bahram
Which is common
to
in
proclaim
Iran.
himself king. However, royalists rallied around Hormozd's son, Khosrow II, who secured Byzantine support, reclaimed the throne, and executed Bahram after his flight to Turkish territory. Khosrow II's initial reign was marked by opulence, the construction of lavish palaces, and the patronage of the arts. He showed favour to Christians, notably through his relationship with his Christian wife, Shirin, and contributed richly to Christian churches. He constructed architectural marvels, including the palaces at Ctesiphon, Dastagerd, and Take Boston, featuring elaborate rock reliefs celebrating royal authority and divinity. Despite this cultural flourishing, his reign descended
Meat
into
Space does
extravagance
sound
and
super
autocracy.
gross.
Khosrow exacted heavy taxes and maintained a vast harem. The murder of his Byzantine ally, Emperor Maurice, in 602, prompted Khosrow II to launch a full-scale war against Byzantium. Persian armies under able generals like Shahabaraz achieved spectacular conquests, capturing vast swathes of Byzantine territory, including Jerusalem in 614. However, Khosrow's refusal to negotiate peace with the new Byzantine emperor, Heraclius, proved disastrous. Heraclius launched counteroffensives that devastated Persian holdings, culminating in the sack of key cities and a decisive campaign that left Persia weakened and vulnerable. In 628, Khosrow II was overthrown in a palace coup and executed for a litany of alleged crimes, including tyranny and treason. His son, Kavad II, secured peace by returning all conquered territories, but soon died in a plague that also decimated the population. Amid this disintegration, external threats intensified. The Turks and Khazars ravaged borderlands. Heraclius, the Byzantine emperor, meddled in Persian politics, and most significantly, Arab tribes, newly unified under Islam, began incursions into Persian territory. A new chapter was about to begin, and it would be their most defining one yet.
All right. So we are at a very significant point in the history of Iran. We are now going to see the Islamic conquest of Iran for the first time. So no, Iran has not been some Islamic country for thousands and thousands of years. You know, they were largely secular too. Even when Islam was introduced, they were largely secular up until the current iteration. People had a choice, but this is a very important part in the history because this is when Iran goes from kind of not a monotheist type of heavy monotheist culture to, or multiple monotheist cultures to just one. And it's a very controversial time for present day Iranians, which is what they like to talk about.
By the mid-7th century, the ancient fire of Persia had dimmed. The mighty Sassanid Empire, once a rival to Rome and a beacon of art and architecture, was crumbling. In its place, a new power emerged, and it was unlike any before it. This is the story of how Iran was conquered and how it conquered back, not with swords, but with culture, intellect, and poetry. The Battle of Al-Qadisiyah, fought in 636,
which is crazy because a lot of our best culture comes from this time too, like poetry,
history,
like
the beginning of the end.
If you guys have ever heard of Rumi,
Empire,
I mean, he was like one of our best poet, one of the
Persia.
greatest poets ever.
By the early 7th century, the Sasanian Empire was already weakened by decades of costly wars against the Byzantine Empire, internal political instability, and economic exhaustion.
This
left them vulnerable
people
to
are
the
very
rising Arab
Persians are very
forces,
proud of Rumi,
who, under the leadership of the
very important
Rashidun
during this
Caliphate,
time too.
sought to spread their influence beyond the Arabian Peninsula. After their successful campaigns in Syria and the Levant, the Muslim armies turned eastward towards the rich provinces of Mesopotamia, which were under Sasanian control. The Muslim forces, commanded by Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, launched a series of raids and captured key territories, threatening the Persian rule. In response, Yazdegerd III, the young and last monarch of the Sasanian dynasty, ordered a large-scale mobilization to push back the Arab invasion. The Sasanian army was placed under the command of Rostam Farrokhzad, one of the most renowned generals of the empire, and the two sides eventually met near the town of Al-Qadisiyah, located near the Euphrates River in present-day Iraq. The battle raged over 4 intense days.
And if you guys notice, they're not putting the borders here for a reason, right? Because these borders didn't exist, like the ones between Iraq and Iran and Saudi Arabia and Syria. And these borders came to be, but as you can see, there is no real border, right? I mean, it's fluid constantly. Like this line between Persians and Arabs is pushing back and forth constantly, and it's going up into here, up and over the Euphrates. So that's why you have the borders a lot of the time they don't make sense, because Shia Muslims are spread across multiple borders, and it would make a lot more sense for them to all be in the same country, or generally all in the same country. I don't believe in ethno-nationalist states, but it was done that way. It separates those groups to make them weaker, divide and conquer, right? Because if you were to put all the Shias into one country, then they might become ethno-nationalist and super crazy, like a country that we are currently watching go fuck up the rest of the world. That's why I don't believe in ethno-nationalism. Does Israel have a right to exist? The same right as every other fucking country. So I mean, I think these are important things to talk about, because it's important to know why it looks like some of the borders in Africa look like straight fucking lines, okay? They were drawn by white people, you know?
Army was formidable, boasting elite heavy cavalry known as cataphracts and a terrifying army of war elephants, which served as both psychological and physical weapons.
War elephants, okay, I'm just gonna go on a little tangent here. War elephants, I think, are some of the most badass fucking narratives of war at this time. Because again, like, I'm just getting beyond like animal safety or whatever, right? Obviously, I'm not a fan of killing elephants, but imagine just being in a war zone that's just never seen fucking elephants before, and they would call them like olifants, right? Something so fucking gigantic. You might have not even seen one in real life before, you know? And all of a sudden, there are like 20 of them in the front lines of an army coming at you, trained, bro. They're coming at you, and they are like targeting people that their trainers are telling them to target. You fuck up the guy at the top, that elephant's still gonna come fuck you up. And it was such a crazy fear tactic that they had. And I fucking love it. I mean, I'm a nerd about this shit. War elephant stream when? Fuck, man. Maybe next stream. I can fucking talk about war elephants. Could have a war elephant stream. Fuck that. Let's go.
In battles. They also held numerical superiority over the Muslim forces. However, the Arab Muslim army was highly motivated, driven by religious fervor, and guided by superior mobility and skill. The Muslims employed clever strategies to counter the war elephants, such as blinding them and targeting their handlers, ultimately neutralizing one of the Persians' key advantages. The turning point came when Rostam Farrokhzad was killed. Historical sources say he was either slain in battle or drowned while attempting to flee, plunging the Sasanian army into chaos. The defeat at Qadisiyah was catastrophic for the Sasanians. It led to the rapid fall of Ctesiphon, the imperial capital of Persia, which was abandoned and soon occupied by the Muslim forces. The loss of Ctesiphon not only stripped the Sasanians of their political and administrative center, but also signaled the collapse of their capacity to wage an effective defense. In the aftermath of Qadisiyah, Yazdegerd III fled eastward, seeking refuge and support from various provincial governors and tribal leaders within the empire. Despite his royal title, Yazdegerd's authority was largely symbolic by this time, another side effect of their decentralization. Many regional rulers and military commanders either refused to support him or made their own arrangements with the advancing Muslim armies. The final blow came in 642 CEE at the Battle of Nahavand, often referred to as the Victory of Victories, where the remaining Sasanian forces were decisively defeated, effectively sealing the fate of the empire. Yazdegerd III's final years were marked by a desperate flight from province to province, as he attempted to rally support, first in Media, then Persia, Kerman, and finally in Merv, located in what is now Turkmenistan. His efforts were in vain, as his local rulers were more interested in self-preservation than in imperial restoration. In 651 CE, Yazdegerd was betrayed and murdered in Merv, reportedly by a local miller or provincial governor. His death brought an end to over 4 centuries of Sasanian rule and completed the Arab-Muslim conquest of Persia. Conversion to Islam, however, was neither immediate nor universal. It unfolded gradually, often accompanied by violence. Zoroastrian sacred texts were burned, priests were executed, and the people were warned. Zoroastrians were allowed to survive initially by paying a poll tax called jizya. This leniency, driven in part by the need for revenue, enabled many Persians to retain their ancient religion for several generations. By the 10th century, Zoroastrians who refused to convert sometimes chose exile over submission, and many migrated to India, where their descendants became known as the Parsis. Those who stayed faced increased marginalization and economic pressures. The conversion to Islam introduced sweeping changes
And that's why there is a fair amount of mixing between the Parsis in India and the Persians in Iran. And my last name, Shams, in has I remember like meeting someone when I was in college. I would talk. I had a few few people that I worked with that were from that region, like Nepal and India, and they were like really inundated by my name. And they were like, it just means like it had its own meaning in Sanskrit or whatever, which was like the royalty, or a man of royalty or something like that. So there is you can see, like, you know again, the mixing of cultures. India, which is, over a whole fucking mountain range there, um it's complicated, obviously. More
To
complicated
Persian
than they like to
society,
tell you it is.
regulating all aspects of their lives, such as their civic, social, economic, and judicial lives. Fire temples gave way to mosques, Zoroastrian rites and rituals vanished, and burial practices shifted to conform to Islamic norms. The Arabic language, carried along with the new faith, infiltrated Persian vocabulary, particularly in religious, legal, and scholarly contexts, though Persian remained the language of everyday life and poetry and cultural expression. The Arab conquest also brought significant demographic changes. Many Arab tribes settled in Persia, particularly in Khorasan, which became a launching pad for further invasions into Central Asia. Yet rather than transforming Persia into an Arab land, the opposite often happened. Arabs who settled in Persia were slowly absorbed into the Iranian ethnicity. Generations later, it became hard to distinguish Arab from Persian, as noted by writers like Jahez. The true transformation occurred not in ethnicity, but in culture and religion. For over 2 centuries after the conquest, Persia was ruled by Arab governors, first under the Rashidun and Umayyads, and later the Abbasids. The Umayyads, with their strong Arab tribal identity, treated non-Arab converts known as Mawali as second-class citizens. This led many Persian converts to attach themselves to Arab tribes for social identity and legal protection. One of the most striking features of the Islamic period in Iran is the remarkable endurance of the Persian language and identity. Despite centuries of Arab rule and the profound changes Islam introduced, Persia never succumbed to Arabization, as Egypt, Syria, and Mesopotamia did. This resilience has fascinated scholars and is often attributed to the deep-rooted cultural and literary traditions of Iran.
I think, again, you kind of, this speaks towards the kind of pride that I talked about, which Iranians are very prideful. They have a lot of pride in their culture. They have a lot of pride in where they came from, and I think, like, to an extent, it makes them look like bigots too, to an extent. The way they look down at Arab people, the way they look down on their Arabization, they look down on their Islamification. I happen to believe that the Iran is extremely fucking unique because of the way, because of the mix. It's a mix of really, like, Euro Arab styles, And I think, like, you can see how proud they were then too, right? To keep the language, to keep the culture, when all the other big civilizations around them, like Mesopotamia, Egypt, they really internalized the Arab culture. But Iran kind of had like this mix, and we did keep our background, and especially the language. Like, I speak the same language that my ancestors did, that version of Farsi. So it's very interesting. It's definitely something that and phonetically, Farsi is much closer to like French, like Franco in Indo languages, than it is to Arabic, which is very interesting too.
Several movements erupted as a result of Persian discontent under Umayyad oppression. The Abbasid Revolution, led by Abu Muslim in Khorasan, was supported by many Persians.
It is
and
very
marked a
cool. It's
turning-
very cool, and it makes you feel very small too. There is, I mean, there is something, I don't want to, I don't want to say this in a way that, there's people that are proud of genetically who they are, and I don't think my blood is worth any more than anyone else's blood, but like Iranian, like Persian blood is historic. It's like it's the same culture, the same people for thousands of years, right? And like when I see images of like the palaces and some of the historic, like Iran has the most amount of UNESCO like heritage sites in the area, and they're all being destroyed by Israel. This is like the bedrock of society, of civilization that they're bombing. It's more than a country, and I think that's why I feel a level of anxiety over Iran. It's more than just being Iranian. It is the bedrock of civilization is there. And the way we are just ignoring the way it's being flattened, even Gaza, I'm not just talking about Iran, like that whole area. There's like a profound sadness watching it happen. It's like I said, my ancestors walked on the same ground there. They spoke the same language. You could probably trace my blood back there. I mean, both my parents are Iranian, so it's one of those things where it's sad, I don't know how else to put it. It's like there's just so much has happened there. Really, so like when you think about the way the world has evolved and how like a lot of it originated here is just, I don't know if that's hitting people the right way, and I hope it does before it's too late.
Point that allowed for greater Persian influence within the Islamic world. The Abbasid Revolution, which many Persians supported against the ethnically biased Umayyads, also accelerated Islamic civilization. The Umayyad Caliphate had ruled the Islamic Empire for over a century. It was seen by many as Arab-centric and biased against non-Arab Muslims, like the Persians. Many Muslims also felt that they had strayed from core Islamic principles and had become worldly. So the Abbasid family, who were descendants of the Prophet Muhammad's uncle, led the revolution. The revolution ultimately ended at the Battle of Zab
Exactly.
in 750 CE, where the Umayyad Caliph Marwan was defeated. The Shu'ubiyya movement emerged early on in the Abbasid period. It was drawn from the Quranic idea that all people are equal in the eyes of God. It served as a cultural and literary assertion of equality, but sometimes of the superiority of Persian traditions. It was championed by Persian
I
intellectuals,
hate when my chair gets
poets, and
adjusted from the
writers.
perfect
It
spot.
would
Now
later
it's
be
gonna fucking bother me
institutionalized by
forever.
dynasties
Don't
such
watch
as
me
the
fidget.
Samanids, Buyids,
No fidgeting.
and
All right.
Ghaznavids.
All right, we good.
Persian intellectuals like Ibn al-Muqaffa and Abu Hayyan al-Tawhidi contributed significantly to the movement and frequently attacked the notion of Arab superiority. Though controversial, the movement succeeded in preserving Persian heritage and elevating it within the Islamic world. Abu Muslim, who led the Abbasid revolution, was assassinated by the Abbasid Caliph Mansur. His death sparked a series of revolts, including those led by Mukana in Transoxiana and Babak Khorrami in Azerbaijan. These tensions laid the groundwork for the eventual rise of
Oh, whoops. Let me just put this. I think I didn't put the speed back to fast. There we go.
independent Persian dynasties, which would not only preserve but also revitalize Iranian culture within an Islamic framework. Persian administrative models, literature, and artistic achievements flourished under later rulers, ensuring that Iran's identity remained distinct within the broader Islamic world. The first significant Persian dynasty to emerge after the Arab conquest was the Tahirids. Their founder, Taher B. Hossein, nicknamed the Ambidextrous, had proven his military prowess by helping Caliph Mamun defeat his brother Amin. As a reward, Taher
Imagine you live in a world where people are getting nicknames like the Pure, the Insane, the Deadly, the Brute, and they called you the fucking Ambidextrous. Like Taher Hossein, the Ambidextrous versus King David the Cruel or some fucking insane thing. Like, what the hell? Who picked that name, bro? Where's there's no aura behind the Ambidextrous moniker, okay? Let's find out how long this empire lasted.
was appointed governor of Khorasan with full authority. The Taherids governed until Yaqub of the Saffarids overthrew them and took their capital, Nishapur.
Not long.
The Saffarids rose from humble origins in Sistan, a region in eastern Iran. Their founder, Yaqub ibn Layth al-Safar, was the son of a coppersmith. He had no interest in the Arabic language and preferred Persian, sparking one of the earliest known Persian language poetic works when a court poet composed a Persian qasida in his honor. Yaqub expanded his power by taking Kabul, Khorasan, Kerman and Fars. He even challenged the Abbasid Caliph militarily, but was defeated near the Tigris. His brother Amr eventually lost the family's broader holdings to the rising Samanids, leaving the Safarid rule confined to Sistan. The Samanids came from Transoxiana and were descended from Saman Kuda, a landowner from Balkh who converted to Islam. His descendants were appointed governors by the Abbasids, and in time, the family established a powerful and culturally significant dynasty. The greatest Samanid ruler, Ismail ibn Ahmad, expanded the empire by defeating the Safarids and consolidating control over Central Asia and Khorasan. The Samanid capital, Bukhara, became a major center of Persian culture, attracting scholars, poets, and scientists. Famous figures such as Avicenna, Biruni, and poets like Rudaki flourished under their rule. They sponsored works that helped lay the foundation for Ferdowsi's Shahnameh, the Persian national epic. The Shahnameh, also known as the Book of Kings, was completed around 1010 CE.
Shahnameh. That's
In
how
over
it's pronounced in
50,000
Farsi.
verses,
Shahnameh.
Ferdowsi told the story
It
of
literally
Iran from mythical
translates
creation
to
the fall of
letter of the
Sassanids.
king.
Written
or the king's
entirely
letter.
in Persian, without a single Arabic loanword, it not only preserved ancient Iranian history and mythology, but also solidified Persian as a literary language, distinct from Arabic, despite Islamization. By the 9th century, a new language emerged known as New Persian. It was written in Arabic script, but retained Iranian grammar and structure. As the Persian language re-emerged, so did Persian genius. During the Islamic Golden Age, Persian thinkers shaped the foundations of science, medicine, mathematics, and philosophy. Avicenna, born in Bukhara, wrote the Canon of Medicine, a work studied across Europe and Asia for centuries. Al-Khwarizmi, often considered the father of algebra, gave the world algorithms and reshaped mathematics forever. By the late 9th century,
So the next time you get pissed about that right-wing algorithm hitting your fucking feed, you can blame the Persians, okay? I'm sorry. Sorry about that. We created the algorithm, okay? And algebra, okay? And medicine. I'm just kidding. This is one of the memes. This is one of the Persian memes, right? Where they think we think we invented everything. We did invent a lot. We did. But like the funniest part of it is like they invented everything. Like they invented the ocean. You know, like that's the meme of the Persian meme. Then how come you can't get more followers? You know what? Because I'm American, because I was born here. I should have been born in the homeland. Maybe I would have gotten some algorithm juice, okay? They screwed us. They really, Iranians really do rule the world. We rule the algorithm, that's for sure.
the power of the Abbasid caliphs had sharply declined, leading to a fractured political landscape in Iran. Dozens of regional powers, military leaders, and dynasties emerged, each vying for control. This era saw almost constant warfare, destruction of cities, and widespread suffering. Major urban centers like Nishapur, Merv, Bukhara, Ray, Hamadan, and Isfahan faced repeated invasions, sieges, and devastation. The chaos contributed to the destruction of countless Persian cultural treasures, monuments, libraries, and works of art, long before the Mongol and Timurid invasions later brought further ruin. Iran became a fragmented kingdom, ruled by numerous competing dynasties, such as the Safavids in Sistan, Samanids in Transoxiana, and
Like
Khorasan,
Dad in my Greek. Yeah.
Zionids along the Caspian coast,
I haven't
Buyids
watched
in
that movie
western
in so
and
long. I should
central
watch that
Iran,
movie again. The
Kakuyids,
movie's so good.
Ghaznavids, Zaidi rulers in northern Iran, Shavan Shahs, Hashemids in the Caucasus, Dolafids in western Iran, Seljuks, and their successor, Atabaks, who would eventually dominate the region, and others.
This fragmentation explains why Iran lacked political stability for centuries and suffered extensive cultural losses. The Ghaznavid dynasty emerged at a time when the once powerful Samanid Empire was crumbling. A talented general named Mahmud of Ghazni seized the opportunity. In 1005, he defeated the last Samanid ruler and took
I
control
will
of
be
Khorasan,
playing
while his Turkic
the
allies,
Dungeons and
the
Dragons
Karakhani,
this Sunday,
occupied the
which
northern
I will
lands of
be
the
saying at
Samanids.
the end of the stream. But yes,
Mahmud
I've
wasn't
never
just a
played
brilliant
Dungeons and
military
Dragons. It's
leader,
funny.
he was also a devout
do I know
Sunni
you?
Muslim with big ambitions. After securing his northern borders, he set
How do
his
you know
sights
I'm
on
playing
India.
Dungeons?
His military campaigns across the
Yes, I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons as a fundraiser for State Rep Paige Boschman for Congress. Let's go. Let's go. Paige Boschman running for Congress, 2nd District, New Hampshire. Sunday night, we are doing a Dungeons and Dragons fundraising stream, and it's my first time playing. And I hope you guys are ready. It's gonna be fun. That's crazy. That's your first time here. That's fucking nuts. I've never played before. I just made my character, and I'm ready to kick some ass on Sunday and hopefully make some grassroots donations. That's fucking crazy. What a small world, dude.
Punjab,
What the
Sindh,
hell?
and as far as Gwalior were framed as religious
Get outta
crusades to
here.
spread Islam, but they also brought immense wealth through plunder and tribute. His most famous and controversial act was the looting of the Somnath Temple in western India around 1021 to 1020.
I'm gonna be honest with you, friend. Not specifically for me, but I mean, there are candidates here in New Hampshire that are looking for ways to grassroots fundraise, and this is one of the ones that was brought up. If this goes well on Sunday, I imagine the other candidates are going to want to do something similar. And if that's like your forte, you know, if you have other social media, if you have other social media, follow me. I have the same username and shoot me a message. And we can go from there. Oh, but Discord. I look like the ideal type of villain. Sure. You know what? I don't want to promise anything. But absolutely hit me up. Let me Discord. I have the same username on Discord, but let me it's actually really funny to me. Hold on 1 sec. All right, let me play this actually. Get this playing first.
His military successes earned him titles from the Abbasid Caliph, including Helper of the Faith and Right Hand of the State. While some modern historians suspect that his real
What kind of character am I playing? I'll hold that for now.
In much of the Muslim world as a
I'll let you
champion of
guys.
Islam.
I'll give you some hints today
Culturally,
before
Mahmud's
the stream's
court in
over.
Ghazni was a beacon of Persian culture.
But
though the Ghaznavids were Turkic
I
by
can't
origin,
multitask,
they
so
became
I'm gonna
deeply
act like it's a
Persianized through their
surprise for now.
connections to the Samanid cultural world. Poets like Farokhi, Manuchehri, and Ansori flourished in his court, marking one of the golden ages of Persian poetry.
I am, my friend.
After
I am
Mahmud, the
Iranian
dynasty
American.
began
I
to
am
crumble.
first generation
His son
American.
Masood
My
struggled to
parents
keep
were
the
both
empire
born in
intact,
Iran. I was born
especially when
here
faced with the
in
rise of the
the
Seljuk
United
Turks.
States of
He
America.
decisively defeated the Ghaznavids in 1040. The once great Ghaznavid Empire shrank, eventually surviving only in parts of India until they were swept away by the Ghurids in 1186. Still, throughout their history, the Ghaznavids remained staunch patrons of Persian art and literature, even more so than some Iranian dynasties. While the Ghaznavids were rising in the east, two other dynasties, the Ziyarids and the Buyids, held sway in parts of northern and western Iran. The Ziyarids came from the Daylamite people of the Caspian Mountains, a region known for its resistance to early Islamic conquest. Under Mardavij ibn Ziyah, they carved out an impressive domain with Ray as their capital. Mardavij even captured Hamadan and reached near the borders of Iraq, but his reign ended abruptly when his Turkic mercenaries assassinated him. Though the dynasty survived in a limited form in Tabaristan and Gorgan, it never regained real power. The Buyids, also Daylamites, rose from the ranks of the Ziyarid military.
The three brothers, Ali, Hassan, and
shit
Ahmad,
is, like,
each claimed different regions of Iran.
malfunctioning. What the hell?
Fars, Jebal, Kerman, and Khuzestan. By 945, the Buyids had entered Baghdad, deposed the caliph, and took control of the Abbasid Caliphate. They never abolished the caliphate.
Oh yeah,
but
it's
instead
the same
ruled as
username.
Amir al-Umara,
Uh,
the real power behind the throne.
that one right there.
The greatest Buyid ruler, Ajod al-Dawla, brought stability and prosperity, ruling over one of the richest courts of the Islamic world. Despite being Shiite Muslims, the Buyids maintained an uneasy balance with the Sunni religious establishment. They opposed the Ismaili Fatimids in Egypt and gradually helped Twelver Shi'ism develop into a more moderate and philosophical faith, borrowing ideas from Mu'tazilite rationalism. Though deeply involved in Islamic politics, the Buyids did not forget their Persian heritage. They revived ancient Iranian festivals and titles like Shahanshah, King of Kings, tracing
Oh
their
shit, you're
lineage
playing
to the
D&D too on
Sassanids.
Sunday,
Some
Joe?
Buyid
That's
princes
fucking crazy.
even bore ancient Persian names like Rostam and Pirusha. However, when it came to literature, the Buyids leaned
Man, do you
more
guys
toward
all know how to play
Arabic
D&D?
culture,
Am I like the
supporting Arabic
one
poets like
clown that
Al-Mutanabbi,
loves
rather than
loves
fostering the Persian
role-playing
literary
games but has
renaissance
never
seen in
played
Samanid
D&D?
and Ghaznavid courts? Ultimately, the Buyid dynasty suffered from internal rivalries and constant wars with neighbouring powers such as the Samanids, Ghaznavids, and other local rulers. Their grip on Baghdad ended when the Sunni Seljuks entered the city in 1055, and the remaining Buyid territories fell shortly after. The 10th and 11th centuries were a time of political fragmentation in Persia, but also cultural flourishing, especially in the Persian language and literature. While power shifted from dynasty to dynasty, with the Ghaznavids in the east, the Buyids in the west, and the Ziyarids in the north, Persian identity and culture emerged resilient
That's
and
good.
enriched,
Okay.
laying the foundations for the Persianate world of later centuries. In the centuries to come,
I
new
just
empires
got your
would rise,
invite.
but the Persian heart would remain.
Let's definitely talk more about this after, because I won't be able to keep on message here. But shoot me a message. We'll talk more about it. I can't promise anything right now, like with my schedule, but yeah, I mean, I can be. I'm self-employed, so I can really make my time however, but life is kind of busy at the moment, so let's talk more about it for sure. All right, where are we at? The age of fragmentation, Turkic invasions of Mongols. So I don't know if maybe we should call it here. How's everyone doing in chat? How you guys doing? Can you guys go some more? There's still a decent amount of you in here. I'm surprised. By now you guys would be fucking bored of me. But maybe I'm better looking than I thought. All right, run it, bro. All right, let's go. All right, let's do it.
By the 11th century, Iran ceased to be an empire, but was a mosaic of fragments.
Yeah. So, just the very last thing. I am personally, love you, Angie. Bye. I'm not running for office personally. I am working for someone who's running for office. I'm the comms director for her at the moment, but I know candidates. I know all the candidates in New Hampshire, and like, if this is something that catches on, it's absolutely something people would be interested in for sure. Absolutely. I'm not personally running at the moment. I am working for one right now.
Kingdoms united by common culture. The Iranians had endured conquest upon conquest, and now it was time for a renaissance. But
Something
not
like
before
that.
Another invasion, the Turkic invasion.
I'm the spin guy. I'm the
Seljuk
propaganda
Turks
guy.
invaded Iran
for
in
sure.
the 11th century CE through a combination of military strength, political opportunity,
I would have high
and
charisma
strategic alliances,
and
ultimately
intellect.
transforming not just
as a
Iran,
build,
but the wider
I guess.
Islamic world. The Seljuks
From what I
were
know
originally a
now.
Turkic nomadic tribe from the Central Asian steppes, part of the broader Oghuz Turkic Confederation. In the 10th century, they began migrating westward into the Persianate Islamic world, particularly into Khorasan, the northeastern region
Thank
of
you
Iran.
for saying I look like a villain, a
At the time,
D&D
the
villain.
Eastern
It's
Islamic
actually,
world was
I
dominated
like
by
that.
the Ghaznavid Empire, a
I appreciate
Persianized
it, bro.
Turkic
No, I
dynasty
appreciate that.
ruling
Thank
over
you.
Iran, Afghanistan, and northern India. The Ghaznavids, though powerful, were stretched thin and vulnerable. The Seljuks, under the leadership of Tugril
Yeah,
Beg
art
and
propaganda,
Chukri Beg,
same
began
difference
by
for
raiding
sure.
into Khorasan in the early 11th century.
Ethical
Their mobility,
propaganda.
cavalry-based warfare and unity gave them an advantage over the more static and bureaucratic armies of their rivals. The turning point came with the Battle of Dandanakan in 1040 CE near Merv in modern-day Turkmenistan. The Seljuks decisively defeated the Ghaznavid army,
Oh, whoops. Yeah,
securing
I'm going to
Khorasan
add you.
and laying the foundation for their control over Iran. The Ghaznavids retreated eastward to India, leaving Iran open to Seljuk domination. The Seljuks then entered Nishapur and gradually moved westward, eventually entering Rai and Isfahan, which became the Seljuk capital. In 1055 CE, Tugril Beg, leader of the Seljuk Turks, marched into Baghdad and declared himself protector of the Caliph. He relegated the Abbasid caliphs to mere figureheads and took control of the entire empire. This marked the rise of the Great Seljuk Empire, which at its height stretched from Central Asia through Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Anatolia. Although Turkic in origin, the Seljuks adopted Persian language, culture, and administrative systems. Persian became the official language of government, while Arabic remained the language of religion. Behind every empire stands a visionary. For the Seljuks, it was Nizam al-Mulk, their Grand Vizier. He once wrote that a ruler without a scholar is like a fortress without defenders. Nizam al-Mulk spearheaded the construction of Nizamiya madrasas, notably in Nishapur, Baghdad, and Isfahan. These grand institutions nurtured theology, jurisprudence, philosophy, mathematics, and astronomy. One prominent student was Al-Ghazali, whose work bridged jurisprudence and mysticism. Nizam al-Mulk also authored the Siyasatnama, a manual of statecraft that balanced justice, administration, and virtue. His assassination in 1092 heralded political instability, but his legacy endured as thousands of scholars, judges, and administrators trained in the Nizamiya network helped shape Islamic civilization. The Seljuk era also witnessed a Persian cultural renaissance, with a flourishing of Persian poetry, philosophy, science, and architecture. Scholars like Omar Khayyam and poets like Anvari rose to prominence. Architecturally, the Seljuks left behind mosques, madrasas, and caravanserais, many of which survive in Iran and Anatolia. By the late 11th and 12th centuries, the Seljuk Empire began to fragment due to internal rivalries and succession disputes. Different branches of the Seljuk family ruled in Anatolia, like the Seljuks of Rum, Iraq, and Khorasan. While the Seljuks were dealing with their internal battles, the Islamic world was battling with the Crusaders. The Crusades were a series of religious wars launched by Western European Christian powers between the 11th and 13th centuries CE, aimed at recapturing Jerusalem and other holy sites in the Near East from Muslim rule. They were framed as holy missions sanctioned by the Catholic Church, blending religious fervour, military conquest, and political ambition.
What else does this remind you of? Like the Holy Wars? Like the fucking news that came out that they were telling like the American troops that they're going to for the holy righteousness and for Armageddon, and shit is so dangerous, dude. Like it's just so fucking backwards. You're just gonna piss off so many people. I guess that's the point.
The First Crusade was called by Pope Urban II in 1095 CE and led to the establishment of Crusader states in the Levant. Subsequent crusades followed over the next 2 centuries, involving battles, massacres, and shifting territorial control. Although the heart of the Crusades was in the Levant, which now includes modern Israel, Palestine, Syria, and Lebanon, their indirect impact on Iran was felt. For starters, Iran was geographically peripheral to the main theatres of Crusader activity. Over time, figures like Saladin inspired calls for defensive jihad against the Crusaders. Persia, as part of the broader Islamic world, was influenced by this renewed religious mobilization. The Sunni revival of the Seljuks, which had started earlier in the 11th century, gained further momentum as defending Islam became a shared cause. It wasn't all negative, though, as silk, spices, textiles, and precious goods from Persia found eager markets in Crusader-controlled areas and later in Europe, enhancing the role of Persian trade routes. For Persia, the Mongol invasions of the 13th century are often seen as the greatest catastrophe to hit the Islamic world, destroying on a scale rarely seen before or since. The Mongols, originally nomadic tribes from the steppes of Mongolia, Manchuria, and Siberia, were united under the legendary Chinggis Khan, also known as Genghis Khan, in 1206. Through military brilliance and sheer...
Genghis Khan is fucking badass too. If you want to get into nerdy, like geopolitical fucking war zone, like, you know, wartime battles and strategists, talk about probably maybe the greatest strategist to ever live.
ruthlessness.
If he was European, or like if he had access to fucking gunpowder, he might have taken over the world.
Genghis and his generals, especially his sons Jochi, Chagatai, Ogedei, and Tolui, created the largest contiguous empire in world history, stretching from China to Eastern Europe. The Mongols followed shamanistic beliefs and lived by an unwritten set of laws called the Yasa, which governed everything from warfare to social order. As they expanded westward, they encountered various religions such as Manichaeism, Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam, and absorbed many cultural influences. When the Mongols arrived in Persia, the once great Abbasid Caliphate was in decline, and local powers like the Khwarezmian dynasty were unable to resist the Mongol onslaught.
So many
The
bloodlines
Mongols,
go
under
back to
Genghis
Genghis Khan.
demanded submission. Cities that refused faced utter annihilation. Cities like Bukhara, Samarkand, Nishapur, Herat, Ray, and Marv were burned to the ground, and their populations were massacred. Later, under Hulagu Khan, the Mongols struck the heart of the Islamic world. Hulagu crushed the powerful Ismaili sect, also known as the Assassins, and then marched on Baghdad, the seat of the Abbasid Caliphate. In 1258, Baghdad was sacked, and Caliph al-Mustasim was killed, ending centuries of Abbasid rule and effectively decapitating the spiritual and political
TikTok
unity
saw me
of the
hitting the
Muslim world.
vape, and now it's giving a warning about
Hulagu established the
substances.
Ilkhanate,
TikTok,
ruling
you
Persia,
ain't got no
Iraq,
idea.
Anatolia,
Okay,
and the Caucasus as a vassal of the Great Khan
get off
in
my
Mongolia.
shit, TikTok.
Initially, the Ilkhan
Unbelievable.
rulers were Buddhist, Christian, or shamanistic, but by the reign of Ghazan Khan, the Mongols of Persia had converted to Islam. Ghazan not only embraced the faith, but also introduced sweeping reforms aimed at stabilizing the economy, administration, and justice. His decrees, known as Ghazan's Yasas, sought to curb corruption and protect ordinary people from abuse. His successors, including Olyaitu and Abu Sa'id Bahadur Khan, continued this process, becoming great patrons of Persian art, architecture, and literature. Cities like Tabriz
Sounds
and
good, Dark
Sultania
Senate. It's good talking to you,
flourished
man.
under their
I'll
rule.
definitely hit you up.
The Ilkhanate oversaw a cultural revival with viziers like Rashid al-Din, the author of the monumental Jami
I've heard of
al-Tawarik,
Deadliest
playing key
Warrior.
roles
I've
in
never
governance and
seen
scholarship.
it. That show
Yet
compared
after
two
Abu
kinds of
Sa'id
warriors
died
to
in
see who would win.
1335, the Ilkhanate fragmented
Like,
into
did they
rival
do it with a whole
factions,
bunch of warriors,
Persia
like
once
from
again
different
descended into
civilizations
chaos.
and stuff? Yeah, I
Into
would
this political
fucking, that actually
vacuum
sounds
stepped Timur,
awesome.
known in the West as Tamerlane, of Turco-Mongol descent. Timur was not a direct descendant of Genghis Khan, but claimed legitimacy through marriage ties and by invoking Mongol heritage. From his capital in Samarkand, he launched relentless military campaigns. Timur's wars were as brutal as those of the early Mongols. He conquered Khorasan, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Armenia, Syria, and India. In 1398, he sacked Delhi, killing over 100,000 people. In Syria, he destroyed Aleppo and Damascus. He even captured the Ottoman Sultan Bayezid I after the Battle of Ankara, humiliating one of the rising Muslim powers of the time.
Oh, that's
Timur,
awesome, dude.
despite claiming to fight
Yeah, I
for
look forward
Islam,
to it.
was notoriously cruel. His massacres of cities, even those that had surrendered, were legendary.
I appreciate
Isfahan
it.
and Baghdad were both reduced to ruins, with tens of thousands of inhabitants slaughtered. Unlike Genghis Khan, Timur was not a gifted administrator.
Yeah, that's the thing
His
though.
empire
Like
was
you
built
could
on
never. I
bloodshed
mean,
and
you have to
plunder,
have fun
not
with it, right?
sustainable
Like if you were to, you couldn't. I mean, you couldn't really ever. You couldn't compare the two, right? It's like comparing like gunpowder with two like bows and arrows and stuff. But I love stuff like that. Like even like historical fiction, dude. I think that's like my favorite type of genre. Where it's like reimagining like history, you know. I don't know if any of you guys have seen the show The Man in the High Tower. I think that's what it was called. The Amazon show about a world in which America lost World War II, like that the Germans and the Japanese like actually won World War II, and it was like a show. It was like a drama show in a world in which Germany, like the Axis powers, had won, and they had ended up splitting America in half. There was the Japanese half and the German half, and then like right through the middle of the country was like the no-go zone between the two zones. I fucking love stuff like that, man. Just reimagining history. I have a problematic love for conspiracies. Yeah, bro. Well, the problem now, Matt, is that truth in 2026, truth seems a little bit stranger than fiction, my friend. So I think there are no more conspiracies left.
However, his descendants, the Timurids,
The
were among the most artistic.
after the Epstein list came out, after the Epstein files came out, okay, and those emails came out, it's like the fuck is a conspiracy now. The fuck is truth.
And cultured dynasties in Islamic history. His son Shah Rukh stabilized much of the empire and was a patron of the arts. His grandson, Ulugh Beg, was a brilliant astronomer who built a famous observatory in Samarkand and produced astronomical tables used for centuries. Another descendant, Bai Songhor, was a poet, calligrapher, and patron of the arts, commissioning one of the most beautiful versions of Ferdowsi's Shahnameh. Despite Timur's savagery, his dynasty left behind a golden legacy in Persian architecture, calligraphy, miniature painting, and science. The Mongol invasions and the rise of Timur were devastating but also transformative for Persia and the Middle East. While entire cities were
They
wiped out and
literally
populations decimated, these
created
conquests also brought the Renaissance. Persia came
right-wing
under unified
culture
rule
to cover
after
up
centuries of
child
fragmentation.
child
There was a
trafficking.
blending of
It's
Mongol,
fucking
Persian, Islamic, and Chinese influences in art, governance, and
the
architecture.
whole like QAnon,
This
like
would prepare the ground for later dynasties like the Safavids,
QAnon,
who would shape
like
the modern identity of
drinking
Iran.
the blood of children. They were telling
After
us
Timur
what,
died in
what they were doing.
1405,
They literally were
Shah
just
Rukh,
telling us,
Timur's son,
and we were like, "That's
shifted the
fucking crazy.
capital
That's the
of
dumbest
the
thing I've ever
Timurid
heard."
Empire from Samarkand to Herat.
Yeah, dude.
city of
They were
Herat
saying
thus emerged
Bitcoin,
as a
like
beacon
in
of
those
the Persian
emails.
Renaissance.
There's
His wife, Gauhar
they're,
Shah,
they're,
was
they're,
a patron
they're
of the
saying like
arts and
Bitcoin
commissioned
was like
several
created by
monumental buildings,
fucking
including mosques,
the CIA
madrasas,
and
the famous
Mossad.
Musalla complex of Herat. There was a revival and
That
flourishing
like the
of
guy,
Persian culture, poetry, calligraphy,
what's
and
the
painting.
guy who created Bitcoin,
Herat
like
hosted
the
a flourishing
legendary
school of miniature painting, where
like
artists like Kamal
Asian
Uddin
guy?
Behzad
His
created poetic
name
masterpieces
translates
that
to
still
fucking
take the breath away.
CIA or something.
The city attracted poets, philosophers,
Yeah,
astronomers,
4chan,
and
exactly.
physicians. Many
4chan
writing
is a
in Persian,
fucking was a
maintaining the
literal
transition from Arabic
literal
to New
right-wing
Persian
psyop.
as the language of elite culture.
Fucking insane.
In courts across Persia, South Asia, and Central Asia,
I mean, even
Persian
Alex
poets
Jones,
recited
half the
their
shit he was
verses,
saying it turned out
painters
to be real.
illustrated epic tales, and scientists pursued knowledge.
Making the frogs
literally
gay, they
forging
were
an
actually
empire of
trying to
art
do
after
animal
centuries of
testing shit
fragmentation.
at that one, like,
Timurid artistic idioms flowed into
oh
Mughal
man,
India.
it just makes me
Persian
crazy
became the
now.
official court. And
He's a
literary
dude.
language
Alex
for Delhi
Jones
to
is a
Samarkand,
CIA
taught in
agent, bro.
schools, written on
There's no way
tombstones,
you can convince
and
me
sung
Alex
in
Jones
courts.
isn't a fucking
Through marriages, missionary scholars,
CIA
diplomatic
op, you
missions,
know?
and craftsmen, Persianate culture became the unifying factor of a new Islamic world. By 1500,
I know.
even without political unity, Persia's contribution to culture,
It's like too
linguistics,
perfect.
arts, architecture, and religion was immeasurable. Persia lay fractured, yet it united the world through culture. In Iran and beyond, motifs of fire, falcon, and foliage spoke the language of resilience and continuity. They foretold the dawn of a new age, one shaped by foreign conquest, intellectual revival, and visionary art. The final chapter of Timurid rule in Persia occurred under the reign of Sultan Hossein B. Mansur B. Baikara, who ruled from 1469 to 1506. A great-grandson of the famed conqueror Timur, Sultan Hossein presided over a remarkable cultural renaissance centered in the city of Herat. Under his leadership, Herat became one of the most celebrated intellectual and artistic centers of the Islamic world, renowned for its poets, painters, architects, and scholars. Sultan Hossein took considerable care to foster the arts and sciences, amassing an extensive royal library and providing stipends to students to encourage the pursuit of knowledge and literary refinement. One of the most influential figures of his court was his vizier Mir Alishir Navai, a distinguished man of letters who composed poetry in both Persian
So
and
just
Chagatai Turkish.
like some of these cities now you guys might start recognizing the names of, like Herat, which I believe is in Syria. These are very like culturally important cities in Iranian culture. Like so like I remember this conversation I had with a friend of mine where Herat was getting attacked by like ISIS or something, and he was like, "Why do they even care about these?" It was like a stupid question. He was like, "Why do they even bring up cities like this? There's stuff going on everywhere, you know?" And it's like, well, these cities have specific meaning to a lot of these cultures and countries. And you know, I bring up ISIS because again, people think Middle Easterners are a monolith, but ISIS is Sunni and Iran is Shia, and there has never ever, not in documented history, ever been an Iranian suicide bomber ever. It's just not part of the even the religious aspects of being Iranian or being a Shia Muslim. And ISIS on their shit list, if you were to see the ISIS shit list, who are the worst, the number one enemies for ISIS, it's not America or Christians or the West at number one. It's Shia Muslims. It's Iranians. That's why, again, you've probably heard, because of the genocide in Gaza, you've probably heard these fucking rumors about Netanyahu and the Israeli government funding ISIS. And it doesn't make any sense, right? Like, if you hear it from like a material, like right from a surface understanding, and you don't know the background of how badly the infighting is between Muslim groups, and you would just think, no, it makes no sense. Why the fuck would Israel ever work with ISIS? Well, again, it's the enemy of my enemy is my friend. The way ISIS is a kind of a balancing tool, is a proxy. Again, you hear that word a lot, a proxy of Israel, the same way Hezbollah is a proxy of Iran, or because it's a lot easier to harass your neighbors this way than to directly attack each other, which is what we're doing right now. But if you go look throughout Iranian history, there is, like I said, out of like the 800 or the 400, whatever the number is, it's like hundreds of suicide bombings to have occurred throughout history. Not a single one has been Iranian. Not a single one. We hang, I say we, the Iranian government hangs terrorists from the tallest fucking crane in Tehran. And the last handful of terrorist attacks in Iran were ISIS. Because, like I said, when you are a Wahhabi Sunni, which is like, you're talking about Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is like a bunch of Wahhabis, which are radical right-wing Muslims. But we're in Saudi Arabia shaking hands with the guys who funded 9/11, right? Iran is so much more dangerous than the literal dudes that again, Wahhabism ideologically lines with ISIS. Saudi Arabia ideologically lines with ISIS. And this idea that that's one of our best allies out there, while we are like turning Iran into some kind of nuclear fucking nightmare, is just a joke. It's silly on multiple levels.
Earning him the title of the father of Chagatai poetry. Sultan Hussein's court attracted many luminaries, including the renowned poet, mystic and scholar Abd al-Rahman Jami, whose literary and philosophical works left an enduring impact not only in Persia, but also in the wider Islamic world, including the Ottoman Empire. The period is often seen as the last glowing phase of classical Persian poetry. Another notable figure was Kamal al-Din Behzad, considered the greatest Persian painter of the Islamic period, whose exquisite miniatures and refined artistic style set new standards in Persian art. The celebrated historian Mir Quand, author of the comprehensive history Rawjat al-Safa, was also part of this vibrant intellectual community. Despite these achievements, the Timurid dynasty could not withstand the external pressures that were mounting on its borders. Soon after Sultan Hussein's death, the dynasty came to an end as a result of repeated invasions by the Uzbeks, marking the close of an illustrious chapter in Persian history. During the period of Timurid decline, Persia also witnessed the rise of two rival Turkmen dynasties that temporarily filled the political vacuum in Western Persia and the Caucasus. The Kara Koyunlu, or Black Sheep Turkmen, and the Ak Koyunlu, or White Sheep Turkmen. Both of these confederations traced their origins to the Goz Turkic tribes and were propelled westward by the Mongol invasions of earlier centuries. The Kara Koyunlu initially established themselves in northern Iraq and the area around Lake Van. They were known for their military prowess and, for a time, controlled western Persia, Armenia, Georgia, Aran, and Azerbaijan. Leaders such as Kara Yusuf and Jahanshah expanded their territories through both military campaigns and political alliances. Although the Kara Koyunlu were predominantly warriors, they were also patrons of art and architecture, as evidenced by the remains of the Blue Mosque in Tabriz, a testament to their cultural contributions. The rise of the Ak Koyunlu marked a new phase in Turkmen dominance. Unlike their Kara Koyunlu rivals, the Akkoyunlu were initially more cooperative with external powers, including Timur himself. Their most distinguished ruler was Uzun Hasan, an accomplished military commander and shrewd statesman who extended his authority over much of Persia and even forged alliances with Western powers such as Venice to counterbalance the growing strength of the Ottomans. Through marriage ties with the Byzantine Principality of Trebizond, Uzun Hasan cultivated diplomatic relationships that distinguished his reign from that of other Turkmen rulers. Despite his military skills, he was ultimately defeated by the Ottomans in 1473, a sign of the rising Ottoman supremacy in the region. His successors struggled to maintain their grip on power and were unable to resist the emergence of a new and potent force within Persia, the Safavid movement. The rise of the Safavid dynasty in the
This
early
is
16th
where
century marks one of the
modern
most
day like
transformative
Shia
periods in
Shia
Iranian
Muslim
history.
Iran is kind of born
This era
in this
witnessed
time
the
period
creation
now.
of a unified Persian state, the establishment of Twelver Shia Islam as the official religion, and a cultural and economic renaissance that left an enduring legacy on Iran and beyond. The fall of the Akkoyunlu came at the hands of Shah Esmail I, the charismatic leader of the Safavid Sufi order. Esmail capitalized on the widespread popularity of Shiite Islam among the Turkmen tribes of eastern Anatolia and Azerbaijan, whose support enabled him to capture Tabriz in 1501 and proclaim himself the Shah of Iran. This marked the foundation of the Safavid dynasty, which would not only bring an end to Turkmen rule, but would also transform the religious identity of Iran by establishing Twelver Shi'ism as the state religion. The Safavids' rise to power thus signaled the close of both the Timurid cultural renaissance and the Turkmen interregnum, ushering in a new era in Persian history. The origins of the Safavids are somewhat obscure, but it is believed that the family may have had Kurdish roots, though they had become fully Turkified by the time they rose to prominence. The Safavid order began as a Sufi movement founded by Safi al-Din in Ardabil in the 13th century. Originally Sunni, the order gradually adopted Shi'ism and developed a militant character under Safi al-Din's descendants. Over time, it attracted the support of various Turkish and Turkmen tribes, particularly in Azerbaijan and eastern Anatolia, whose devotion to the heads of the order would play a crucial role.
And this is where like my mom's lineage kind of comes through. I told you guys that my mom is Azeri. So she ethnically she has roots in this area of Azerbaijan, which was part of the Persian dynasty, right? So like that's what, you know, she speaks Turkish and Farsi, Persian. That's part of her upbringing, part of her cultural upbringing. My dad can't speak Turkish because he was brought up in Tehran. And she was brought up in a very Turkic part of Iran. And so my grandfather, actually, my great grandfather, I think was actually born in Azerbaijan. And my grandfather was actually like a spy, or my great grandfather was like a spy for one of these countries. I got to get the story straight from my mom sometime. But it's a pretty badass story, much more badass of a life than I've lived. A spy against Russia. That's what he was. For Iran or whatever. But that'll be a lore drop for another day.
In the dynasty's rise to power. The Safavid state was founded by the young and charismatic Esmail, who became head of the order after the death of his father, Haydar. Esmail, adored by his followers known as the Kazilbash for their distinctive red headgear, launched a series of military campaigns to avenge his father's death and to expand his authority. In 1501, at the age of 14, he captured Tabriz at the Battle of Sharur.
14, bro. At the age of 14.
And declared himself Shah.
What were you guys doing at 14?
The king. He also established Twelver Shi'ism as the official faith, compelling the population
14.
to convert, often
Taking
through
out
force.
fucking tribes
His
at
swift
14.
military successes extended Safavid rule over the whole of
I was
Persia
playing
and prevented
with
further
myself
Uzbek
at
incursions from the
14,
northeast.
I think.
However, Esmail's belief in his own invincibility
At some point,
suffered a
at
crushing
the age
blow
of 14.
in 1514 when he faced the formidable Ottoman army under Sultan Selim V at the Battle of Chaldiran. The Safavids, who viewed firearms as dishonorable, were decisively defeated by the Ottoman superior weaponry. Though the Ottomans occupied parts of Azerbaijan temporarily, their inability to maintain a foothold due to harsh winters limited the extent of their conquest. Yet the psychological impact on Esmail was profound. He withdrew from public life, descended into melancholy, and never again led his army in battle before his death in 1524. Esmail's reign also exposed a persistent challenge that would trouble the Safavid state for generations. The tension between the Qizilbash tribal warriors, the men of the sword, and the Persian bureaucrats, the men of the pen. As Esmail sought to centralize power, he realized the need for competent administrators, traditionally Persians, to balance the unruly and ambitious Qizilbash chiefs. This rivalry often descended into violence, as exemplified by the assassination of Persian vizier Mirza Shah Hossein by Qizilbash factions. The same delicate balance between tribal military power and Persian civil administration persisted under his successor, Shah Tahmasp, who inherited the throne at the age of 10.
Can't stand
Tahmasp,
revolution.
though neither a brilliant administrator
You were doing more
nor a
than
military
me.
genius, proved to be a determined and pious ruler. Despite frequent Ottoman invasions and persistent Uzbek threats, he succeeded in maintaining the territorial integrity of Persia and firmly entrenched Shi'ism across the realm. His reign also marked the beginning of friendly, though complex, relations with the Mughal Empire in India. When the Mughal ruler Humayun sought refuge in Persia after losing his throne, Tahmasp offered support on the condition that Humayun convert to Shi'ism, a conversion that Humayun later reversed. Nevertheless, the diplomatic and cultural ties between the Safavids and the Mughals endured beyond this episode. Following Tahmasp's death, the Safavid state fell into a period of instability. Esmail II briefly seized power but proved to be a cruel and paranoid ruler, whose ruthless elimination of royal family members left the dynasty weakened. His successor, Muhammad Kodabanda, was an indecisive figure, allowing the power struggles of Qizilbash factions and court intrigue to spiral unchecked. The Safavid realm teetered on the brink of collapse until the emergence of Shah Abbas I in 1588, a monarch whose leadership would revitalize Persia and restore Safavid power. The Safavid Empire reached its peak under Shah Abbas I, known as Shah Abbas the Great, who reigned from 1588 to 1629. Recognizing the fragility of Safavid authority, Shah Abbas embarked on an ambitious program of centralization and reform. To curb the power of the unruly Qizilbash tribal warriors, who had been the military backbone of the early Safavids, Shah Abbas established a professional army trained with modern firearms. He recruited slave soldiers called Ghulams of Georgian, Circassian, and Armenian origin, who owed complete allegiance to the crown. Abbas also shifted the economic orientation of the empire by promoting international trade. He established relations with European powers such as England, Portugal, and the Dutch, turning Iran into a key player on the emerging global stage. Through strategic alliances and commercial expansion, he secured Iran's position as a cosmopolitan empire. One of Shah Abbas's most enduring legacies was his decision to make Isfahan the new capital of Iran. Under his direction, Isfahan underwent a breathtaking transformation, becoming one of the most
Isfahan
magnificent cities in the
the last
Islamic
time
world.
I visited Iran, I was like 17 years old, so it's been like 23 years. And the reason I haven't gone back, if I just mostly because my parents don't feel safe with me going back, because I've been very active against the Iranian government here, and I'm American born, which is very tasty for the Iranian government if they feel like making my life hell. But Esfahan is one of the most beautiful fucking cities that you could ever visit in the region. It is just a symbol of like the architectural cultural beauty of Iran is in Esfahan. Like the Takht Jamshid is what they call it. Like and when you're there, you sense it too. It's an absolutely magnificent city full of there's like amazing
The
buildings.
city was adorned with grand mosques, such as the Shah Mosque and the Sheikh Lotfollah Mosque, celebrated for their intricate tile work and soaring domes. The construction of the Naqsh Jahan Square, flanked by palaces, bazaars, and religious buildings, showcased the grandeur of the Safavid vision. Bridges like the Sio Sepol and Kaju Bridge demonstrated advanced Persian engineering and aesthetic elegance. Simultaneously, the Safavid court sponsored the refinement of Persian miniature painting, blending vivid colours, intricate designs, and poetic storytelling. Isfahan symbolized the fusion of art, architecture, and imperial power, and remains an architectural jewel today. Another hallmark of Safavid prosperity was the flourishing of the Persian carpet industry. Persian carpets, already a centuries-old tradition, reached
Persian carpets, okay, and this was something that growing up as a kid, I never knew that Persian rugs and Persian carpets are considered like in a class of their own. And it's one of our big cultural things, a big one of our big cultural pillars in the Iranian, in the Persian culture is the rugs. They're very expensive, very hard to get, and it's one of those things that they get passed down like through generations too, and they can be like pretty significant in terms of like their tapestry and the time spent in making them.
New heights of artistic achievement during this period. Under royal patronage, workshops in cities like Kashan, Tabriz, and Isfahan produced carpets of extraordinary beauty, featuring intricate floral patterns, vibrant dyes, and silk and wool craftsmanship. These carpets were highly prized in Europe, the Ottoman Empire, Mughal India, and beyond, becoming Iran's most famous artistic export. The carpet industry not only enriched the empire economically, but also played a crucial role in defining Persian aesthetic culture. To this day,
Seriously, like you go to any Persian house, doesn't matter how fucking Americanized they are, they're gonna have Persian rugs. That's how you know they're Persian. Not by them telling you they gotta have a rug. That's like the calling card of the Persians. And I'm telling you, any house you go to, every room, probably. I mean, you go to my parents' house, every fucking room, some like one of the bathrooms got a Persian rug inside of it.
Safavid-era carpets are considered masterpieces of textile art. The geopolitical reality of Safavid Iran was shaped by constant military conflict with its neighbours. The most persistent adversary was the Ottoman Empire, a powerful Sunni state that viewed Shia Iran as both a religious and territorial threat. The Ottoman-Safavid wars were fought intermittently over control of strategic regions like Mesopotamia and eastern Anatolia. These conflicts were not only about land, but also about the ideological rivalry between Sunni and Shia Islam. In the east, the Safavids faced continuous raids and wars with the Uzbeks, who sought to expand into Khorasan. He waged successful campaigns against the Uzbeks in the east and, after initial concessions, reclaimed western territories from the Ottomans through military victories. Perhaps one of his most celebrated achievements was the expulsion of the Portuguese from the Persian Gulf with the assistance of the English East India Company. This not only restored Persian sovereignty over key maritime routes, but also bolstered the economy and trade. One of the defining features of Safavid governance was the integration of religious authority into the machinery of the state. The Safavids were
I got a question. Is rug making or weaving there considered women's work like sewing or embroidery for the Americas? Very good question. So you're talking about carpet making. Is carpet making just considered women's work in Iran? The answer is it depends. If you are in like the villages and like the rural areas, if you are in like the tribal areas or rural areas, non like commercial areas, it's actually women most of the time, yeah. Um, but when you get to like commercial making or like some of the in some of the bigger cities, it will be male dominated, but not all the time. It's a craft. Let's put it like this: it's either woman in the nomadic tribal areas or it's craftsman based in the bigger cities because it is looked at as a like it's not something that you can it's not a McDonald's, right? It's not something that you should be able to just cookie cut and mass produce. There is a lot of time that goes into Persian rug making. It's considered culturally an extremely high skill thing because it's a way of creating it, right? I don't know exactly what I think it's like really like the colors and the artistry, but it's not like a it's not like a gender based role. Um, any it's not any differently considered than any other part of the world, right? When it comes to like women's jobs, like sewing Yeah, like in the household, women are the ones that are generally sewing in Iran and not the men. And I think you can apply that definitely to carpets, especially in the rural areas. But in the cities, I think it depends. It depends on the artistry. Some men are really good at it, some women are really good at it. And I think it depends there. But I'll tell you, in the Iranian culture, women are the head of the household. Like not like there's a maternal kind of, I don't mean it literally. I mean there is a if my mom gets pissed, everyone notices, okay? Let me put it that way. If my dad gets pissed, it's all right. We'll deal with it. But if my mom wants something, like it's done. Eh, like I know some people generally like will treat their mother that way anyway, and that's great. I'm just saying in like there is a hardcore like level of respect for the matriarch of the family, and yeah, there's a lot of like cultural power that goes with that too, which is very complicated. It's a very complicated topic because people will be like, well, people, they have to cover their hair in public. Yeah, I know, I get that. But behind closed doors, people don't cover their hair. Okay, they hang out with each other. They wear shorts. They chill. Even outdoors now they do. I mean, it's not really tightly enforced these days.
work to institutionalize Twelver Shi'ism, making it not just a faith, but a cornerstone of political legitimacy. Clerics were given prominent roles in legal, educational, and governmental institutions. The Shia clergy helped enforce orthodoxy, suppress Sunni practices, and guide public morality. This marriage of mosque and monarchy became a permanent feature of Iranian governance, one that would deeply influence the later Qajar and Pahlavi eras and still resonates in the Islamic Republic of Iran today. The elevation of Ashura commemorations, the veneration of imams, and the spread of Shia theological schools all contributed to the shaping of an Iranian religious identity distinct from its Sunni neighbours. Despite its cultural brilliance and military achievements, the Safavid Empire began to unravel in the late 17th and early 18th centuries. The decline of the Safavid state began after Abbas's death in 1629. His immediate successor, Shah Safi, perpetuated a legacy of violence by murdering or maiming potential rivals within the royal family. Although Abbas II, who ruled from 1642 to 1666, was a more capable and just monarch, subsequent rulers lacked both competence and resolve. Shah Suleiman, preferring life in the harem to governing, presided over a period of relative peace, largely because Persia's neighbours were themselves weak. Nonetheless, foreign observers such as Jean Chardin noted signs of cultural and political stagnation. The final chapter of the Safavid dynasty came under Sultan Hussein, a feeble ruler dominated by religious clerics.
So you guys can see, like, when you look at when you think about how the Middle East is set up right now, right? Some of these countries, I don't know if you guys recognize some of these countries, but like the Uzbeks, the country now is Uzbekistan. They talked a little bit about Turkmenistan, which used to be part of the Persian Empire, Tajikistan, you know, all of these countries, right? Even though they're ethnically different, they might have their, like Uzbeks are an ethnic group, but Turkmenistan is like a mix of Persians and Turks, and it's like not it's not a flavor per country. You know what I'm saying? They're mixed all over the place. Joe, thanks so much for coming. We're ending soon anyway, right after this chapter, whenever this chapter ends. I don't think we can finish this thing tonight. The exciting stuff is gonna be tomorrow, I think, or the next day, whenever I
His
go
poor
again.
handling of Afghan discontent, combined with his general ineffectiveness, led to the revolt of the Ghilzai Afghans under Mahmud, culminating in the sack of Isfahan in 1722. This event marked the collapse of the Safavid dynasty and the end of one of Persia's most transformative eras. Corruption, court intrigue, and economic stagnation had gradually eroded the state's stability. Military discipline declined, and central authority weakened, leaving the empire vulnerable to external threats. The collapse of the Safavid dynasty in the early 18th century ushered in a turbulent and fragmented period in Persian history, characterized by foreign invasions, internal revolts, and the rise of new ruling houses. The immediate aftermath of the Safavid fall saw the emergence of the Afghan intermezzo, during which the Pashtun tribes of Afghanistan, long
And it's crazy, like just one little like anecdote. I can speak the Afghan national language, which is Dari. Dari is just like how can I what's a good way to say it? You ever my people's from the Northeast. You ever try to listen to someone from like Louisiana or like like maybe some French fucking Bayou, Louisiana person trying to talk, and sometimes it might sound like they're speaking a whole other fucking language, but it's just really like a thick, like American accent, like just a different type of American accent. And sometimes to the ear, it sounds foreign. Dari is like that. Dari is like Farsi, but with like this like weird dialectical tinge to it. It's like the way they pronounce the words. It's I don't like it. I don't like the way Dari sounds, to be honest, versus Farsi. It sounds like it just makes me, I don't know. It's weird. It like bricks my brain a little bit. Like Catalan versus Spanish, exactly. It's just like almost like an accented version of the language, but I get to put on my resume that I can speak multiple languages. It's a cheat. It's a cheat code.
Resistant to Safavid Shiite rule, seized the opportunity.
Yes, absolutely. A lot of people, again, like when you look at the languages, if you look at Farsi versus Arabic, it's spelled in the same direction. If you weren't like, if you didn't study those languages, they look very similar, but they sound completely different. And yeah, phonetically, it is a lot closer to like Indo-Franco language, you know. And you can go down a fucking rabbit hole with this, Matt, for sure. It's really the study of language is really interesting, I think, too, and languages that have been lost over time. And I think that's one of those things where, if I'm talking about it from like an individual standpoint, I think one of my big fears is losing, like I can read it. I can read it, not at a perfect level. I can write it, not at a perfect level. I'm fluent in it, but my parents are both Iranian, and I think that was the reason I learned it, right? And I got to know it. Like it was because it was in the house. And if I don't end up, let's say I get married, and if I end up having a kid, chances are I'm not gonna marry someone who's like fully Iranian. I know, statistically. And do we lose the language in like my genetic line? It's one of those things where, like, is it part of my responsibility to make sure it lives? I have these fucking, uh internal questions that maybe I shouldn't be asking on stream, but they're questions nonetheless, because, you know, my ancestors fought so hard to keep the language, right?
To assert their independence.
Go down that rabbit hole.
The Safavid control over Kandahar had always been tenuous, often contested by the Mughal Empire.
Oh, it's really interesting.
Under Shah Sultan Hussain, the Georgian governor of Kandahar, Gorgin Khan, ruled the region with oppressive severity, fueling widespread resentment among the local Sunni Pashtun population. Mir Wais, the influential leader of the Ghilzai tribe, capitalized on this discontent, orchestrating a successful rebellion that led to the assassination of Gorgin Khan. With the tacit approval of the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb and the backing of Sunni religious authorities, Mir Wais declared independence for the Afghans. His son Mahmud carried the rebellion further, invading Persia and inflicting a series of defeats upon the Safavid forces. After a brutal siege, Mahmud's forces captured the Persian capital of Isfahan in 1722, bringing an end to Safavid sovereignty. For 14 years, Mahmud and his successor Ashraf ruled Persia, though their authority remained fragile, constantly challenged by internal disorder and foreign incursions. Sensing Persian vulnerability, the Ottoman Empire seized the western provinces, while Russia annexed territories along the Caspian coast. Simultaneously, the Abdalis, an Afghan tribe, took control of Herat, further fragmenting Persian territory. Amid this chaos, Tahmasp II, a Safavid prince, proclaimed himself Shah in Kazvin, seeking to reclaim the throne with the assistance of Nada Kohli, an ambitious military commander from the Afshar tribe in Khorasan.
All right, I think this is a good place to end. We went through fucking 1700 years. No, longer than that. Shit. We went through 2,500 years of Persian rule. And we didn't even get to the juicy parts yet, guys. We didn't even get to like the Iran-Iraq war. We didn't get to like Mossadegh and the democratically elected president of Iran. We didn't get to the overthrow. Oh man, we got some juicy stuff coming. But we've been here for 3 hours now, and I'm an old man that needs to lean into this slowly. So I really love you guys. Thanks for coming. People in TikTok, I see like 5 or 6 people in here. I love you guys. Thank you for hanging out with me. Same username on Twitch. If you use Twitch, we were watching a documentary. You can't see it on TikTok. You could hear it, but we're watching a documentary on YouTube called The Entire History of Iran from Tribal to Modern. That's what it's called. So if you want to watch it on your own, please do. We are stopping at chapter 7, which is we are entering the gunpowder era in Iran. So I'm gonna try to I'm gonna be on tomorrow. I'm gonna be on tomorrow night. So set your notifications and I'll be on tomorrow and we can finish this up and talk about some fun stuff too. We're gonna talk about some fun stuff tomorrow, and I'll let you guys know what that's about. And then just really quickly, Sunday night. So for those of you that don't know, I am the comms director for Paige Boschman, who is running for Congress in the 2nd Congressional District here in New Hampshire. And we are running fully on grassroots donations. And we are going to have an event on Sunday, which is a Dungeons and Dragons fundraising event. And it's going to be live streamed. We're going to live stream it on Paige's on her TikTok and her YouTube, and I'm going to be on my TikTok too. And check for promotions on that, and anything you guys can do if you guys are going to watch, a couple bucks here and there. I mean, we're running completely on grassroots. We're running against a fully funded fucking machine, and we don't need to match them in money, but everything helps. And if money is an issue, if you can volunteer, if you can post content, we are the winds of change are at our backs, guys. If you needed some, if you are, left of center like I am, or very left of center, you should be getting some hope out of some of the results that have been coming out recently. And I think here in New Hampshire, we can make a huge difference. So keep it up. Keep up the fight. Sunday, look for our stream. Remember, March 10th is local and town elections. Keep a lookout for that. Go to citizenscount.org to get all the information that you need for your local and town elections. And let's go fucking take the state back, dude. All right? I love you guys. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Long live Iran. Free Palestine. Love you. Bye.